and welcome back to another episode of We Bought a Mic, a podcast about the best television programs of the year 2024. It's part 2 of Best TV of 2024. Listen to part 1. It's a separate episode. We did numbers 10 through 6, and now we're getting into the top half of the list with numbers 5 through 1. Welcome. My name's Ernest.
My name is Hunter, but a little bit cozier this time because now I have on a hoodie.
Go Knowles. I'm Drew. Man, I'm sorry.
Drew, do you want to share what you just told us right before we
if folks didn't listen to the last episode, Drew's list is a little different.
I think 10 is more of a concept whenever you're making these lists than it is like a rule to follow.
I think I don't know what I did here, but I'm going to tell you one thing. I have more than 5 shows left to talk about, and we're going to have to figure that out. Ernest, I'll let you.
And you did have more than 5 things to talk about last episode as well. So it's an evolving, it's an expanding thing, your list. And joining us today, once again, just as he joined us in part 1, is Dane. Hey, Dane.
I'm back.
How you feeling about part 2?
A little bit better than part 1. I don't know.
I hope so.
This is the higher bar. This is the better stuff, right?
Yeah. This is you putting the best in the best TV shows. Really, the part 1 was really more just sharing some thoughts on the year. You know, just things that we watched. Now it's time for the true showing of the best. You know, it's time for the Acolyte.
It's time for the Skeleton Crew.
It's time for the Penguin.
I will say there's a pretty significant teardrop for my list getting in the top 5. Actually, though, it's like, oh yeah, no, these are like things that would be great and would be on my list every single year, and not things that I'm like, it's here because it was a shallow year. That you have remaining up here for us today for us to listen to, or
no? There's still bad stuff I have left. I gotta say though, I'm glad to hear that there's like a tier jump, I guess, because there are some shows that I really like and am upset that I missed, but not many of the shows that you guys mentioned.
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't feeling very compelled.
You were really bummed that you didn't catch up on Silo, and we could tell in the pod, we could hear it in your voice.
Yeah.
Did you watch Landman in between our break, between part 1 and part 2? Did you just crush through all of Landman?
No, but am I allowed to count all of the Horizon movies as a show?
All the there's only one, dude. That endeavor is not panning out.
I mean, I guess if Kevin,
you've only seen the first one.
Yeah, I was gonna say like,
okay.
Ernie, did you get left out of that text thread with Kev? Yeah, he.
They have a crossover season with Silo.
Oh, yo. All right. So number 5, we had established Drew as the first one, and then that kind of got sort of rickety.
Well, now
do you want to go first, Drew?
Yeah, because then it'll be like loop back around me and I'll get 6 in.
So you're 5A.
I'm like that figure skater that like. Have you ever seen the video? They started the race by doing one insanely fast lap and then fell in line with everyone else.
Yes.
And to the point that everyone else forgot that they did that one lap. So like they won by a full lap.
So
that's what I'm doing to you fucking idiots right now.
Okay.
You absolute morons.
Too slow on the ice.
What's one of the shows that you watch that may be your number 5?
It's my number 6. I mean, I don't know. I hate to break it to you. So let's talk about Monsters, the Lyle and Erik Menendez story. Anyone watch it?
You watched this? Oh no,
I
did not watch this. Not at all.
I don't blame you. It's sloppy doppy, so I figured Dane would have at least.
No.
My God.
I was too engrossed in Dragon Ball Z to watch slop this year.
No, not like true crime slop. I don't think that any of the slop, the purveyors of slop that are on this podcast right now, I don't know if any of them are in the true crime slop. Exactly.
You're lost. It's from the man who brought you Dr. Odyssey, Ryan Murphy. You know, this is
how was the crossover app? The Christmas episode where they cross over with each other.
What's crazy is that did happen in real life. Like it's you know, they
went on a cruise. The Menendez brothers.
The Menendez brothers. Really interesting story to kind of give the Ryan Murphy treatment. This could have been a way more effective show than it ended up being. You're getting, I think, great performances from all three of our leads. Like you'd call them breakout performances. It's two dudes who were like on the way up anyway. They rock. They're good. Cooper Koch or Coke playing Erik, and then Lyle is played by this guy Nicholas Alexander Chavez. They're both really effective in what they're asked to do. The clear like best performance in the show is Javier Bardem. No shocker there. He's playing the Menendez father in what is like truly just a very upsetting story. I think that the central problem the show runs into is it's trying to sort of move back and forth between the campy, like slapsticky, funny nature of these two idiot brothers coming up with like a harebrained scheme to kill their parents. That's sort of, you get a lot more of that early on in the show. And then it's sort of, the show almost like covers the arc of like the American consciousness, like the more you learn about the Menendez case, because it starts like feeling like, oh my God, these two guys are beyond morons. Like, how did they ever think they'd get away with this? They're so unlikable. I hate them. And then, you know, it kind of turns on its head the more you dig deep and find out that they were like getting molested by their dad. It's just like, it's tough because that's a hard thing to incorporate into one show tonally, those two poles. And I don't think it does a great job of making that happen. Sort of it becomes unclear as to like what the aim of the show is, because obviously he, like when he made something like the Dahmer show, that has a much more definitive ending to it because we know what Jeffrey Dahmer did. There's not moral ambiguity around him. The same, to be honest, could be said for OJ. Like we know that OJ did the thing in a way that's at least more definitive than this case. Like in this case, it was never like fully confirmed whether or not all of this stuff was true. And it stinks because like that speaks toward like this weird like male like victim blaming culture, but it also speaks toward the fact that these two little shits were like pathological liars, you know, in a lot of cases, like separate from these accusations. At a certain point, you're like, obviously, like the show is giving us like the truth of the show is that they were getting like abused by their dad. And then it ends on a note that makes you wonder, I don't know. You're not left with any sort of clarity as to why the show should exist outside of just like being entertainment, but also a vehicle for solid performances. It just doesn't all coalesce. It's interesting. You learn a lot, but there's a corresponding documentary that came out at the same time on Hulu, or maybe the doc was on Netflix.
Well, this is Netflix, right?
Monster. Yeah. So they're both Netflix. Yeah. So then you can then just watch.
Murphy has some kind of overall deal with Netflix now.
So I don't know. It's a really frustrating show, and it sort of leads you to believe like maybe there just wasn't like a great version of this in there, even though so many ingredients of something greater in there. It's obviously a compelling story, but like you obviously want to portray these two kids as fucking morons because like they were, but also the other stuff. And like how do you meet in the middle there? I don't think they figured it out at all.
Well, they're making another season. So Dahmer was first. Now it's this. And then next is something called The Original Monster. I guess Murphy has abandoned the American Crime Story. And now this is the story of
Judas.
I was really, when you were teeing up Ryan Murphy, I was hoping so badly you were going to be like American Sports Story, Aaron Hernandez, just so we could talk about my guy Norbert Leo Butz and his impersonation of Bill Belichick, which is the worst impersonation I think I've ever seen anybody do in my entire life.
Really, the funniest thing you've ever seen in your whole life. No, I really do want to give a shout out though to Cooper Koch for playing Erik Menendez. It really is a breakout performance. He's sort of the brother that has more of a self-awareness about him, more of a conscience. There's an episode that's a one-shot monologue of him like kind of being interviewed by his own lawyer and really going into like true detail of all the horrific things that happened to him. And it's really compelling. It's like good acting. So there are things to latch onto.
Does it sniff the American Crime Story? I love the at least the first 2 seasons. The Bill Clinton one was super shaky, but the Versace one and the OJ one were great. Is this anywhere close to that? Or
well, then no, this isn't great. It didn't like. You're not going to find any critic calling it great because it so clearly has something missing from it. I wouldn't necessarily recommend it. The Menendez brothers, obviously, it's much like the OJ case. Like if you ask your parents about it, they will remember very distinctly, watching that trial on TV. And it's a story that like captured the nation, but like this is sort of trying to change your average parent's opinion of what happened with given what, the sensitivity around the subject that we know now.
Yeah.
But also like you have to get through a bunch of episodes of like these brothers being portrayed as like the, like fucking Tweedledee and Tweedledum. So it's like, what are you really trying to get at here? I can't figure it out.
Yeah.
What you're describing is kind of the problem with almost all of these, especially Netflix true crime miniseries, whether they're documentaries or whether they're docudramas, is like they're 3 episodes too long. And it's like because it goes back to the Netflix of it all, that Netflix is just all about how long can we keep people's eyeballs on this. So it is stretching things.
But people aren't even watching it. It's just background.
Well, that's what I was going to say too, is that like, we're talking about like no critic is going to have it on its list. But this is going to be the most watched thing on any of our lists for this entire episode, aside from like the Summer Olympic Games. Like everybody fucking watched this show when it was on Netflix, which
numbers
is part of the problem in a lot of ways. But
it's just
alas,
weird. Yeah.
that is where we are at as a society.
I'm happy for everyone who got to really perform in this. Like our 2 brothers, our dad, obviously Bardem, Chloe Sevigny, the mom. She's great always. Ari Graynor as their lawyer, Leslie Abramson. I really came around to her performance. That's sort of what I found myself gravitating toward because I was just looking for something. It doesn't look great. It really has like the digital that digital stare look to it.
Yeah. Netflix, baby. So they got it down to a system. It's Monsters : is it Monster or Monsters?
This is, I think, the single worst thing about it is that it's called Monsters, but it's under the IMDb for Monster, which is an anthology show.
Because that's what the Dahmer one was called. Yeah.
Yeah, and this is supposed to be an anthology show, but it's Monsters.
Monsters.
Because there's 2 of them. It has to be Monsters.
The Lyle and Erik Menendez story. It's on Netflix. It's Drew's number, I'm going to say 5 right now, but I think that's going to change.
It's my number 6.
All right. So Dane, we're at your number 5.
At my number 5. All right. We're gonna keep it on the Ryan Murphy train.
Yes,
we're gonna throw Dr. Odyssey in at number 5.
We did it! We fucking did it!
Top 5 show of the year. Let's fucking go!
Oh my god, dude!
Dr.
Odyssey. What this podcast has been leading up to for 8 years. This moment,
Dr. Odyssey is like one of the worst things I have like ever seen in my entire life, and I was fucking gripped from the first episode. I was like, this is what TV should be. It's able to draw you in with just objectively terrible writing, but like it knows that it's terrible writing, and it's like, fuck it, let's go. We're gonna lean into this. Like, Drew, how much do you know about Dr. Odyssey?
Only everything that you've said about it, which is honestly a lot over the last few months.
Dave was on the ship. You were honking the horn.
Yeah, you
were trying to get everybody on board.
Everybody needs to watch this show.
You were on the maiden voyage of Dr. Odyssey. You were there.
Nobody wanted to listen.
And nobody wanted one.
I got Ernest on the boat. Ernest understands, right?
Dude, I watched every episode of this show.
And technically the season's not done. It's technically on a mid-season break.
Oh, really? So we're getting more?
Is the fucking Brutalist? like it's fucking like
No, this
Breaking
is an
Bad
incredibly
season.
episodic show. Every episode is its own voyage, its own cruise.
They have the pilot episode immediately followed by singles week, which they acknowledge.
More like the Captain episode.
Oh,
Plastic surgery week, wellness week, Halloween week. There's a wedding.
Can I make a comment about the Wikipedia of Dr. Odyssey?
Yeah.
So there are plot description, like episode descriptions for episode 1, 2, and 3, and then they just gave up. There's just no episode descriptions written for 4, 5, 6, 7, or 8. They just were like, "That's not what you watch the show for."
It just says like etc.
And so on and so on.
Yeah, they say like there's a holiday or something.
Yeah. So there's like 4 main characters. There's our doctor. He's new to the ship. He's sexy. He's hot. He's
Joshua Jackson. Fringe heads rise up.
There's 2 nurses. There's the lady nurse and the boy nurse.
And who do you think Dr. Odyssey has better chemistry with?
Yeah, it's the boy nurse. It's the boy nurse. The sexual tension is palpable.
But which one is the show trying to make happen more so? The lady nurse.
And then the captain. The captain is what's his name?
Don Johnson, baby.
Don Johnson.
Yeah, let's go.
Who's barely in it, but when he shows up, it's good.
He's got kind of like the JD in Scrubs where he's like doing a monologue to himself. It's like if JD's monologue was a character and also everybody wanted to fuck him and also he was like the captain of this ship.
Okay, I'm so in.
Sure Don Johnson didn't write the show. He's just like, I'm the captain and everybody wants to fuck me. We all know it. Come on, I'm Don Johnson.
Okay. Big year for Don Johnson. Just saw him in Rebel Ridge.
Oh, nice. He's great in that.
Hell yeah.
Can you please do a dramatic reading of the first episode of how this show starts?
Yeah, I need to specifically see Drew's face. Okay, so here's the Wikipedia summary of the first episode. After the previous head medic was fired for a negligent bacterial outbreak aboard the Odyssey, the new doctor, Dr. Max Bankman, meets nurse practitioner Avery Morgan and nurse Tristan Silva. Tristan reveals his love for Avery to Max while they and the ship's crew party on land. To make Tristan jealous, Max dances with Avery and they kiss and nearly have sex but realize it's unprofessional. Max reveals to Avery that he was the first case of COVID-19 in the U.S. and nearly died from the virus, which made him realize he needed to enjoy life. Max and Tristan make peace. Emergencies include the team treating a man with iodine poisoning and later a dislocated shoulder, performing surgery on a man with a penile fracture, and a man who goes overboard.
Wow.
Every episode,
what a pilot.
Something horrible happes on the ship. Like if there's one thing that you're gonna see on Dr. Odyssey is that these cruise ships, they ain't so safe. You know, you kind of need a doctor on board to take care of things.
I wanna mention one thing about the way that is phrased. By the way, great reading.
Thank you.
He finds out that this guy is in love with this girl to make him jealous, not because he wants the girl. That to me is like blatantly saying that this is a homoerotic situation, not you know what I mean? It doesn't make sense to say it that way.
Tonally, it's like crazy because like the nurse is like, "Oh, you're the new hotshot doctor." Well, like, fuck you, I'm hot shit. And then he's immediately like, "All right, we're bros, right?" And then the doctor's like, "No, you were a dick to me, so so fuck you, actually."
It's a joy to watch this thing.
Yeah.
I mean, it's so sloppy. It is like as sloppy as you can get, but it is so goddamn watchable. Like it just goes down so fucking smooth. Every episode, you just want more and more. And no matter how horrible the acting is or how atrocious the writing and the dialogue is, you just cannot get enough. It is incredible. Incredible.
Is this too sloppy to be on USA Network?
No, this is think Royal Pains.
Well, I was gonna say it's very Royal Pains.
It's sloppier than Royal Pains.
Okay, so you could say that like the ship isn't turning away any characters.
No. Characters are well.
They might be invited on board.
Okay.
Is it too horny to be on USA though?
Well,
from what you describe about the show,
bro, did you even watch Suits?
Well, okay.
It tries to be very horny and it does not succeed at all. Like, it is consistently trying so hard to be horny and it never gets there. I cannot think of a single scene in the entire season that is actually like
sexy,
successfully sexually charged.
There's one scene where it's like this, like everything about this should not be sexy. And I think the fact that like everything about it is not sexy.
I know what you're talking about. Yeah. Oh my God. It just came back to me.
Yeah. It's like 10 minutes of like, wait, are they actually going to do this?
Yeah. No, I'm back in. No, this show is, it goes there. Yeah. I forgot about that. Yeah. By the end, it gets there because you think they're not going to, and then you're like, oh, they're going to.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's
now
crazy.
Now we're cooking. Yeah. All right. No, yeah, this is great. There's a scene towards the end. I think it might be the final episode, the 8th episode, or I guess it's not the final episode, the mid-season finale, where they're performing surgery in the middle of a hurricane.
Oh, I think that was like early.
Was that earlier? Okay.
Yeah.
It's at some point they're like in the middle of a massive storm and they're trying to like perform surgery on, I think it's like
it's on the nurse. Yeah, they're doing like an appendectomy in the middle of a hurricane.
And the ship, and so they're on comms with the captain. So Don Johnson gets a really great scene where he has to like maneuver the ship in the waves so that they don't fuck up the surgery and like kill the guy. It's so good. It's real nice.
Yeah, you had me at first case of COVID.
Yeah, I know.
I was watching the episode, and that's why I was like pushing so hard for you specifically to watch this show. I was like, Drew's gonna love this. Like,
that's such a cool, stupid writer move.
It doesn't go anywhere. It's just like it's just such a throw.
Well, no, because it's like
they bring it up periodically. They're like, yeah, back when I was like intubated for like 3 months with COVID, all I watched was this Barbie and Ken reality TV show, and I just like they were my only friends for 3 months while I was in quarantine.
Well, that was the first one. It's a good case of like campy heightening, because you're like, okay, so what drives this guy to do this? Okay, he topical, he had COVID, but he's like exceptional, so like, we got to put some. Okay, he was the first guy.
Yeah,
to ever happen.
And there's some like really like crazy like guest stars like for what this show is. Like Shania Twain is in it.
John Stamos.
John Stamos plays the captain's brother.
He should be the fucking lead on this shit.
Honestly, yeah.
He's
put him in the Don Johnson role. Really,
he's the captain's gay younger brother who like shows up and he's part of a throuple.
So good. Margot Martindale.
Nice.
Who's the guy that's like eating the?
Oh God!
Isn't that it's the
Jewish
Abelman?
Guy?
It's Cy Abelman. Yeah, Fred Melamed.
Fred Melaman's in the show.
Yeah, he comes in to drop a bucket right at the end in the final episode or the mid-season.
Yeah, he just starts eating shit. It's incredible.
It's just eating random shit.
It's like they like show it. He's like he sees a penny on a table and he just picks it up and puts it in his mouth over eerie music.
The show is amazing.
So good.
Guys.
It's so good.
This is incredible. I'm so glad you picked this. This rocks. I need everyone watching, everyone listening, watch Dr. Odyssey. Just do it. It doesn't matter if it's bad. Fuck
Rachel
it.
Dratch.
Yeah. You will not regret it. You will not regret it. It's like sometimes you just need a show like this, and especially now with the state of the world and like sometimes you don't have time for anything else. You don't want to use a lot of brain power, but you also don't want the slop to be like rotten. You want your slop to have like a nice little kick to it, like a little hot sauce in there.
No, you think we're gonna come back from the mid-season break and he's gonna be like, guys, I have terrible news. I've contracted the bird flu. I have bird flu. I'm bringing it. I'm actively carrying it on the ship right now.
Mpox.
There's an episode where everyone has norovirus and they're just pooping. I think it's cool because almost everyone that's been on the show is on for just one episode, except there's one lady named Sherry Efres who plays Lady at Dinner twice.
Well, they do have a lot of dinners. One of the funniest things about this show is that they have to find ways to make it so that the nurses like are not nurses. So they get like dressed up for like fancy dinners. And then it's like, oh, whoa, someone's sick. We got to like attend to them. But I'm wearing my fancy dress, not my nurse scrubs.
Yeah, they're like best friends with the captain too. So like any like notable like guests that show up are like sitting at the captain's table, and like also the nursing staff is there. Like, don't worry about
like a full tuxedo.
Can you imagine if you went on like a carnival cruise and this is just like the behavior that's happening around you?
I have never been on a cruise before. I don't ever want to go on a cruise after watching this show. It's like, damn, every single time there's like some horrible shit that goes down.
This is exactly what happens on the Coheed and Cambria cruise.
Yeah.
Oh, dude,
you're contracting diseases that we haven't even discovered yet. That they're nameless.
What if there was an episode where they're the Coheed crews for an episode?
Yeah, they need to bring Claudio on. We need it.
I'm here.
Awesome.
For it.
This is such a great pick, Dane. I'm so happy right now. All of this was worth it just for this. It's Dr. Odyssey. It's Dane's number 5. Wow. I am beaming right now. Hunter, number 5.
I mean, it's tough to follow up Dr. Odyssey. I don't know what to say. Like, all things considered, my number 5 is just like some shitty, forgettable slop. But my number 5 is English teacher.
Nice.
Well, we're gonna have to wait for that.
I figured that we're gonna have to wait on.
Yeah, because Drew wants to talk about that.
Drew
later.
said that he watched 3 shows, and I know that he watched this show, and this is a good show. So therefore,
this one was on my list at one point, and I had to kick it.
I watched the pilot. And then
I'm excited to talk about it. I'm excited to talk about the show.
We'll talk about it. All right, so we're at my number 5. I think we're gonna have to save this one. At number 5, I have Shogun.
Yeah, we're gonna have to save that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Wow.
All right, so we're swinging back to Drew for your number 5.
This is one where here I can catch up on some lost time because there's not a ton to say about it. But the Survivor new season
47.
We'll give it to that.
46 or 47?
Hell yeah.
Which one did you
47 was the better one. Are you just slotting both of them in here?
No. Let's do 47.
I haven't watched Survivor 47, I will say, so.
Oh, sucks. Sorry.
Okay. Well, so
guess it's getting spoiled for you.
No, I won't. So without going spoilery, the thing that stuck out most, aside from like, without getting into casting or like events, almost every single challenge in the entire season is a brand new thing.
Yeah.
And they're all really, really good. They put a lot of resources for some reason this season into just like completely refreshing the challenges. And they're all so complicated, so fun to watch. So many of them come down to the wire. So they did a great job with that. There are several new twists in the season, which, obviously since season 40, they've been throwing so many fucking twists at the wall. It's hard to keep track. Most of them are not effective. The newer twists in this season actually work really well. I thought they introduced an appropriate amount of silliness and also like strategic, advantage into the situation, not just one or the other, which is kind of what we've been getting. So good job there.
And the cast, man.
Well,
this
that's the thing. So
really surprised me.
We don't have to get into it, but yeah, it's like I said, with reality shows, it all comes down to the cast. And this is a really good cast, particularly because with a show like Survivor, it's not just the cast, but it's who makes it in the cast. Like who remains. You might have a great like 5 people that all leave like halfway through the season. So yeah, enough really compelling people stay in the show to keep things really interesting. It, like a lot of newer seasons, especially, it picks up post-merge.
Right. But this one
and-
more so than almost any recent ones. Like I almost did a full 180 on this. I was so out pre-merge and then I was so locked in after the merge. It just completely turned around.
You get, I mean, people make moves in the season. Like it's something that's been really missing from Survivors. Like there are multiple characters in this season that are actually trying bold things. Speaking toward like the self-awareness of everyone who goes on Survivor now. The season has plenty of that. There are people that like everyone on the show at this point has watched way too much Survivor. So there is like the meta, like, oh my God, I can't believe I'm like blindsiding someone right now. And that gets really annoying. But there are characters that I came to really appreciate because they are not necessarily good players, but they continue to try things. And I think that makes good TV. It reminds me of a lot of throwback people on Survivor, like Jonathan Penner back in the day. Really, really like hateable, punchable guy. But every episode he was like trying to do something. In New Survivor, like your average character is too paralyzed by fear and analysis to like make any significant move.
It's too gamified. Everybody's been like studying it too much to make the silly mistakes.
This season starts with the funniest and most abrupt crash out of all time in the history of Survivor. It comes, I think, in the first episode.
Yeah.
A player has a full-on psychological meltdown and then remains, without spoiling too much, but like he sticks around long enough to be like a really compelling character that like you think is just going to be a full-on joke, and you're like, okay, just get rid of the guy.
Yeah.
Like I came to appreciate our boy.
Yeah, you go through so many like it's so back, we're so over moments.
It's it's exactly people do stuff in this season, and I found that fun. And then obviously, a good portion of whether or not you like a season comes down to like how the finals play out, and it was satisfying. So
great final.
Liked it.
I need to finish this season. I'm glad to hear that, especially as the season goes on, it does pick up a bit, because I watched the first 2 episodes and I was like, I don't think I like this. I don't like this team as much, especially compared to, I really enjoyed 46 a lot.
46 is great.
46 had some incredible characters. Jelinski, just an all-time, talk about like a burnout first episode, but make it memorable. The Banus of the world. Like if you're talking about like the burnouts, and then I think you have like some really cool, interesting television characters with your Qs, with your Charlies, with your Ben, who we saw like got a chance to meet. It's the Cats man himself. It's a thing where it's just like it was.
You guys are
I
so
think
lucky.
that was a good cast. I need to get back into 47. Give it another shot.
It's a pair of really great seasons for Survivor. I think they're on a heater right now. If they can keep this going to 50, we're about to get 48 and 49 this year, and then 50 and 26. I mean, this could be a real all-timer run right here. Like if they keep this up.
Hey Dane, are you gonna devote 2025 to watching through 47 seasons of Survivor, or are you gonna stick to like rewatching every season of Love Island UK on repeat? Can you fit some time in your schedule for that one, or what?
Survivor. No.
We'll make you a master list. We'll make you like a
master list.
Yeah, we'll make you like a 2 or 3 seasons to start with, to like.
I mean, that's what I did when I was in chemo, like fucked up out of my mind. I watched Survivor Kagayan, Survivor Second Chances, and then later had to finish it out with Survivor Heroes versus Villains. So I got real in on like the Survivor lore, and I kind of checked off a lot of the big ones. So now if I keep going, it's not going to be as good because I kind of just started from the top. I know
down. That's the one downside, but you can run into like some like really significant earlier seasons.
It's still like fun, like a lot of the earlier, because it's such a completely different show. Like I'll love something like Survivor China, which is like 15, but it's like such a like gross season because it's freshwater instead of like being on the islands and
People are
stuff
getting
like that.
sick.
Yeah, people are like actually you're like kind of worried for them. Season 3, they're in Africa, and there's like a thing where they're like, hey, there's lions that are like roaming around the campgrounds right now, and like a camera guy has to be like, I have a gun if things get bad, don't worry, like we're okay. Like things get kind of sketchy, and so it's so different from people just being like, oh
Yeah.
I didn't really sleep well on the Fijian sands last night.
I mean,
It's
they still
different
find a
challenges.
lot of ways to keep it really fresh. The editing
Yeah.
these last couple seasons has just been so good, so on point. Like they're getting super refined with it. I think that the show is hitting a stride. I mean, it
would
might be
just
its final leg, but
it would be cool to have that amount of refinement behind the scenes, but cast people that are not TV trained. You're gonna have to cast Survivor fans. That's just
we
how it's
need
gonna
more
be.
Carolins,
But
more cues.
So many of the contestants on this recent season are like, oh, I'm a podcaster. Oh, I'm I'm a sports reporter.
not the
Oh, I have a
best.
TV show. Yeah, like
Yeah.
it's people that they know are
Oh,
going to be
I was a script writer
trustworthy.
for Barack Obama.
Yeah.
Shout out Pod Save America.
Jonathan Penner, famous, villain of Survivor's Past, he wrote the movie, I think he wrote either The Snowman or The Bye Bye Man.
Oh, really?
I think he wrote the
Yeah.
Bye Bye Man.
The Bye Bye
I think
Man.
that's right.
Jeez. Well,
Yeah, so shout out
Survivor
to him for The Bye Bye Man.
Survivor is Drew's number 5. We are at number 4, Dane. What is your number 4?
The first half of the season did not get to be on last year's list because it had not finished airing. So this year we have Invincible
Nice.
season 2.
Yes.
Yeah,
I never finished it. I
you
for
never
no good
finished
reason,
it.
really. I didn't finish it for like no good reason. I mean, Invincible's a great show. I love it, but I just never finished season 2.
Yeah, there's a lot of criticism with how Amazon handled releasing season 2 because it took forever for it to come out, and then they had like a mid-season break for an 8-episode season.
So 4, and then 4 months
more
later, another 4, which is not ideal.
Yeah, it was like they like delayed it that long so that it coincided with like an Amazon Prime Video price increase.
Tough.
Yeah, so with ads and that's kind of rough. There's certainly criticisms that can be levied at a lot of the show and how it was put out and stuff. But at its core, Invincible is a great story. I've read the entire series. It's awesome. And I really, really like it's gonna sound weird when I say like modern twists or whatever, but it's like they do like changes to things that are like small and little and subtle that like if you've read the comics, you're like, oh, that's neat that it's different. Like Shrinking Ray is not a dude. Shrinking Ray is a lady in the show. It's not what is it? It's Seance Dog in the I don't remember if it's Seance Dog or Science Dog. I think it's Science Dog in the show and Seance Dog. My biggest critique how the season is put together is I would have ended it a little bit later. It ends on kind of a downer note, but it's there's a lot of great voice acting.
Tremendous
Steven
voice
Yeun
acting.
continues to absolutely slay it. So many great moments.
I think the name that has been getting thrown around a lot that I kind of laugh at is Jason Mantzoukas. They're like, I didn't know he could be a good voice actor. I'm like, he's been a great voice actor for like a decade now. It's honestly, he gets a really great character. I'm kind of hoping I can also lump in the Adam Eve special, kind of like an in between season 1 and season 2. In the comics, that was like 1 page, and so they drew that out and wrote like a whole story. It was like in the comics, just a nice little description of like here's what happened, and they were able to put so much more heart and emotional like rawness into that episode and play off of it. Yeah, I'm just a huge fan. They're doing season 3
soon, right?
Yeah, I think March.
Yeah. I mean, my biggest criticism is that it really felt like an in-between season. It felt like a lot of setup for the next one. And I'm really excited for the next one, but there was a lot of drawn out storylines. You don't really get a lot of Omni-Man. The whole conflict with Angstrom didn't feel like it really built up that much and felt more like a transitionary piece to the next thing.
Angstrom is gonna come back. This is like basically Mark realizing that like he's not his dad. He doesn't have to be his dad. He's trying to become himself. He's trying to like make himself stronger so that he can protect the Earth from his dad and anybody else who comes. And so it really is transitionary. Where the 3rd season is going to start, he's going to get a new suit. They've like already teased that. I was kind of hoping that was where the 2nd season would end.
There's still a lot of really incredible moments, lots of like really intense, violent action, which you love to see from this show. And the storylines, the places they go with the Cecil character and him kind of getting more embedded. And what's the other guy? The guy who like realizes that he's like a clone or a robot or something.
Yeah, it's
you know who I'm talking about.
Yeah,
with
some
the
generic ass name. Yeah.
Yeah.
They're doing that, like that was in the comics as well, but like it wasn't given like the same gravity. Like they're giving that character a little bit like more to do. And I think that's really neat. There's lots of characters like that are getting bigger roles.
Yeah, just more leveled up. And I love some of the needle drops. I mean, the Karma Police needle drop at the beginning. Yeah. That's so good, man. They're flexing their budget. I know the animation quality has been a sticking point for a lot of people. I feel like there's been some improvement. Maybe it's not at the level of Arcane or some of the other big hitters that people point to. They're stepping it up here and there. It's not. Yeah,
it's got good animation where it needs to have good animation. Has kind of been my general take. And I know all of the money is predominantly going to the voice acting.
Yeah.
And the voice acting is so good that I'm like, okay, that's fine. Like,
yeah. I mean, J.K. Simmons just incredible as Omni-Man.
I'm not like usually super huge on like actors doing voice acting. What's her name?
Seth Rogen's in there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean he gets to be Alan. We like Alan.
And
I mean he's like also like a producer on the whole thing. So like sure, Seth, you can get a bone. You can be in this thing.
Gillian Jacobs.
Gillian Jacobs
as Adam Eve.
Yeah. Zazie Beetz.
It's a cool show. I really need to finish it up. I think that I saw the first couple episodes of season 2 and then just stopped watching it because it's on Prime Video and I never think casually to go to Amazon Prime Video to watch anything.
Browse. Yeah.
That's why it was such a disastrous strategy to like have a break, because that requires your audience to like remember how to get to you.
That literally only worked for The Boys because that is the one property that Amazon has been successfully able to market as a TV show. But also, I mean, you could say that Amazon is doing the same having the same issues on the movie space. See no nominations for challengers.
What about football? Thursday
football, they're killing it.
Yeah,
football, they are absolutely killing it. Like football, Netflix is kind of following.
That's why I open Amazon is for football.
Yeah, and then you're like, oh shit, look at that, Invincible's up.
Invincible is Dane's number 4. Hunter, where you're number 4.
My number 4 is Mr. and Mrs. Smith.
All right.
Speaking of Prime Video, a service that's I don't ever watch. And then as we were preparing for this pod, I was like, I'm not really happy with my 10 that I have right now. There's a couple things that I want to try and binge through. This was one of them from early on in the year. It was on one of our lists for like our most anticipated for the year, I think.
So this comes from Donald Glover. Also starring him and Maya Erskine. It was supposed to be Phoebe Waller-Bridge as well, but I don't know what she's doing. She hasn't been in anything in
some
years.
Kind of creative something or other where Phoebe Waller-Bridge dropped out. The other piece in this is Francesca Sloan, who really doesn't have a lot of credit. She has like some writing credits on episodes of Atlanta, but the big piece was Maya Erskine, our girl from Pen 15, stepping into the Phoebe Waller-Bridge role.
Really stepping in. Like, this is such a different role from what she's doing in Pen 15.
And it's one of those things where it's like, there's a lot of elements of like the dramatic chops in Pen 15, but at the end of the day, like, that is a silly show. This is something where she like fully leveled up, and honestly, like, I think that this has the potential to be like a truly like a special TV show, depending on what they decide to do with the whole anthology of it all. The way that the season ends, without getting into spoilers, it's kind of unclear what exactly the future is going to be. If we're going to continue with these same characters, if we're going to bring in other Johns and Janes, because this is a whole universe of Mr. and Mrs. Smiths that exists
based on the Brad Pitt Angelina movie from the early
I thought we were definitively bringing in others because we, don't we have little Timmy, Russian Timmy from
Honora?
We are bringing in some others, but like, does that mean, what does that mean for some of the other? Because I will say, Donald Glover and Maya Erskine are not the only John and Jane that you see in the first season.
What is it? Skarsgård is in there. There's a couple.
Skarsgård's in there.
The guy from Civil War.
The big thing is Wagner Moura and Parker Posey play like recurring characters as like the cool seasoned Mr. and Mrs. the John and Janes that they'll meet throughout a couple episodes in the season. What makes this show special though is that it's not really a spy show. It's mostly like, this is Marriage Story, and then also they get sent on missions to like
that's
kill a guy or plant a bomb or something like that. And each episode of the show is trying to tap into a different part of a relationship.
First date, second date, first vacation.
Yeah. For the vacation together, you're in that honeymoon phase. And then like, we came across like a fight. We came across some friction. Like, how are we going to handle this situation? Like, you don't ever talk to your dad. I call my mom maybe a little bit too much. Like, there's kind of all these different dynamics that come in there. Should we try to think about having kids? Maybe yes, because you always want it. Maybe no, because you're international spies, and that's a bad position to raise a kid in. But it's more about like the metaphor of it all. Yeah, you shouldn't literally have kids, but also it's more of a character study into how these two people who were matched together, they both independently signed up for this secret society together, and then through some kind of personality test that you just see little flashes of, they were matched together. And it's almost seeing like, why were they matched? Because they clearly do have some chemistry. They clearly have fundamental things that do not align with one another. And it kind of comes down to them on whether or not they want to put in the effort to make it work, in the same way that every relationship is about if you want to put in the effort to make it work. It's such a cool show. I'm just so happy to see Donald Glover like doing this, because it was one of those things. We all were obsessed with Donald Glover, and if you would have asked me in 2013 like who's going to be the biggest person in the world in 10 years, I would have said Donald Glover, because he just seemed like he was on this perfect trajectory. Atlanta comes out. Atlanta still is one of my favorite television shows of all time. But you always have to worry about something that is so meandering, I guess you could say. So like disinterested in a linear story of how sustainable is that really? Is this lightning in a bottle, and are we ever going to get back to it? And what is so cool about the show is that it is a television show. It is something that is very much, you could make 4, 5, 6 seasons, however much you want to make of this, depending on how much juice they really want to squeeze out of this thing.
Well, they just feel like they do a lot,
whole
man.
World.
It's globetrotting, man. Like, they're in Italy, they're up in the mountains.
The budget is on display.
Yeah, they're shooting. Sure. This is not in front of the volume. This is not in front of the green screen at all. Like, they are in all these beautiful locales, and they get a lot out of it. And to me, one of the most genius parts of this adaptation is how it inverts the premise of the film. Because in the film, it's Brad Pitt, Angelina Jolie, they're a married couple, and they don't know that they're spies. They are trying to convince themselves that they're living this domesticated life so that they can fool the other person into believing it.
They both secretly are spies, but they don't know that the other one is.
This is a total inversion where they're going into it fully knowing that they're spies, but they have to pretend to be a married couple for the world, not for each other. And that's such a fascinating inversion because what it does is that it creates this even playing field of both of these people are in this relationship. They know that they are both pretending. They know for a fact, and they're having to go through these motions of a relationship so that they can continue to operate within this program. And that adds a whole other layer to the story that doesn't exist in the original film, and it adds to all these other possibilities that you're talking about with like expanding it in the television format. Also got to shout out just the extended cast of guest actors in here. Paul Dano, John Turturro, Sharon Horgan, Sarah Paulson, Ron Perlman, Michaela Cole. Like, this thing is absolutely stacked and everyone brings it. There is not a misstep. This show could have been higher on my list. I think I only had it so low because it came out in February. It came out almost a year ago and I didn't get a chance to revisit it. But it's a banger, man. It's a great pick.
It's also it is very, very funny too. Like, it's not just dramatic themes and spy stuff.
The relationship stuff is super relatable.
Stuff is funny. Like them driving around in a car in the Ron Perlman episode where they're just like talking about like, I could see us like settling down in Italy. And meanwhile, like Ron Perlman is like gagged and blindfolded in the back. He's like, what are you talking about? Why is this happening to me? Where are you taking me? And there's like, oh, wouldn't it be lovely to live in the countryside? But like, I thought you wanted the French countryside. Like having like couple conversations, but meanwhile, they're just like have somebody that they're kidnapping in the back. Sarah Paulson is, I think, my favorite episode of the entire season. She's hosting a therapy session.
So good.
And it's a heist, or it's a mission that they're being sent on that instead of watching it live, you're watching them recap the mission that they went on together through couples therapy, through these like segmented things. So they're dissecting the mission, but also they're each other's personalities in this moment. And Sarah Paulson is just like a home therapist who occasionally it will cut to, and she's just like, just a white girl who's just trying to like gentrify a bunch of stuff. It's like, oh no, this art piece was from the great artist in Sudan, that he was his dying piece that he wished to give to me and right before he passed away. And just vaping. He's like, even just little lines where she's like, yeah, and the Venmo code's by the door, so just don't forget to QR that before you leave the session. Just all kinds of little moments like that are littered throughout this whole show that it's just fantastic. It is such a fun, watchable show. The episodes are generally around like the 45 to 55 minutes or so, but it feels like an absolute breeze. Like as you're watching it, only 8 episode season. Can't recommend it enough. It's got a little bit of everything.
Yeah, it's exciting. It's thrilling. It's got great action.
The action set pieces are really good. That's the other thing. Maya Erskine, she does like a lot of stunt work in it that is very impressive. That's just like, oh, okay. I did not know that you had this in your game. Like I'm here for it. Let's also
shout out to Hiro Murai, who directed the first couple episodes.
Hiro Murai directed a couple episodes. Of course, Donald Glover. Amy Seimetz, who directed a few episodes of Atlanta, some of the great episodes of Atlanta.
Mr. and Mrs. Smith is Hunter's number 4, and it's my number 8. Like I said, could have easily been higher. All right, we are at my number 4. Oh, guys, guess what? It's yet another Apple TV Plus show. I think this one might be the last one, though. It is Disclaimer, a Alfonso Cuarón television program on the Apple TV Plus streaming service. It stars Cate Blanchett, Sacha Baron Cohen, Cody Smith-McPhee, and Kevin Kline in one of the most confounding performances of any actor I've seen this year. This was a very
Kevin
divisive
Kline?
show. People were not vibing with this one. And I'm here to plant my flag and say the disclaimer is good, actually.
Yeah.
And
this is the most earnest pick. I'm so glad that you have this on here. Alfonso Cuarón, release anything, and you're just like, I'm here, top 5. Let's go.
I don't care what people say. I don't care if they're ridiculing this thing and calling it pretentious or whatever complaints they want to lob at it. It doesn't matter. Do what you will. That's what art is for. To be thrown tomatoes at. Fuck it. This show is about a woman who is being pursued by a strange man. Cate Blanchett is the woman. Kevin Kline is the strange man. And there seems to be something in their past that is causing this weird series of events. She's a very wealthy person. She's sort of a successful documentarian. And Kevin Kline is just kind of like a weird old man. And throughout the course of the first few episodes, you realize that Kevin Kline has written a book that recounts a story from Cate Blanchett's life, and he has published it. And the things that happen in the show are very ridiculous and preposterous. And if you squint and if you look at it under a magnifying glass, it doesn't quite hold up. But I don't care, because that's not what this is about. This is about Alfonso Cuarón making a show that feels very silly and scandalous, but it also has a very palpable, sinister quality to it. And yeah, it does feel like it's something that wouldn't quite play out in real life the way it does in this show. But that's what TV's for. TV is to elevate things and make things silly and make things weird and show things that wouldn't play out in real life and get weird with it. And that's what I like about this show. There's a darkness to it. There's a real gravity to some of the subplots in here. I don't want to get into too many specifics in case people want to check it out and get all the twists and turns. But there is sort of almost like a Russian doll, non-linear structure to the story. It's sort of a story within a story as you start to uncover the events of what happened years ago that are now being recounted in this book and the tragedy that went down. And of course, it's Alfonso Cuarón, so it looks absolutely stunning. Every shot, every sequence, every camera move, it's all gorgeous. It's all breathtaking. And again, the performances, a lot of people were scratching their heads and complaining about what some of these actors are doing here. Personally, it worked for me. I like the kind of more ridiculous, amped up sort of soap opera quality of what these actors are putting here. Like I said, very divisive show, very out there, didn't really hit as well as the people who made it may have wanted it to, but it hit for me, and maybe it was always going to, but I watched it just at the right time as I was feeling better from my getting over chemo, and I binged it. I was lucky enough to get the advanced screener access, and I didn't have to wait week to week. So maybe that's what part of the complaints were from a lot of people, is having to wait every single week for the next episode. I just blew through the whole thing. So now that it's up on Apple TV Plus, people can do the same thing. Don't have to wait week to week. You can just crush through the whole thing. Similar to what we said in part 1 with something like True Detective, where there is this mystery quality to the plot where you feel anxious to kind of get to the point. And if you binge it, you don't have to wait. You can just get to the point. So a lot of good stuff in here, a lot of great direction from Mr. Cuarón. And yeah, the plot has its twists and turns, and I got a lot out of it. I thought it was fun. It has some of the most, how do I put this, explicit and borderline pornographic scenes.
That's what I was going to ask. That's what
any show in recent memory. Be careful who you watch it with.
Yeah, don't watch this one with your parents. I was wondering when you were going to get, because that has been like the big thing I've talked about. Is just like, yeah, it's graphic. It is a sexual show.
Yeah, there is a point to it, and when it gets there, it gets there. So I'd say stick with it. It's one of those shows where you kind of have to watch the whole thing. The final episode The final like button that gets put on this story sort of just like completes the entire picture, and you can't really make the best, fair judgment on it only seeing part of it. So I would highly recommend it. Like I said, it wasn't a huge, critical hit, highly acclaimed kind of thing, but if a master like Cuarón is going to bless us with new work, I'm the first one there, and I'm glad that it hit with me. So that's Disclaimer. It's on Apple TV Plus. It is my number 4. And now we are at Drew, your number 4.
I wish I didn't have to have this as high as I have it, but The Three Body Problem.
Okay, nice. I was wondering if you had forgotten that you watched this.
This might be one of the ones that I did forget and then added a little bit later. I honestly thought it came out in fucking 2023. It feels like it was
a minute ago, yeah.
And we talk about it like mid-year on the podcast.
So.
Yeah.
We brought it up a few times. It's a good show.
It's a good show. It's every time you say that, it has to be prefaced with like, could be better.
Right.
Like just really glaring flaws, some of which I think are just baked into the concept of it. Like the book seems not super adaptable in its current form. And so Benioff and Weiss, when they took this over, had to then sort of create a bunch of shit from whole
TV-ify it.
And I think they over TV-ified it in a lot of ways. Like they added in characters and plot lines and like love stories that feel like they're in a completely different thing sometimes. And sometimes, so sometimes the two worlds, like that crazy heavy sci-fi alien world, feels so disconnected from this, like, no disrespect, Ernest, but this, I have cancer.
Well, isn't there a character, is the guy who like gets his head launched into space?
Yes.
Yeah, he's dying of cancer. And he's like, I volunteer to get my head launched into outer space.
So that is real. You guys didn't watch this, did you?
No, I did not.
Like when we get there, that's why I was like ultimately glad that plot line happened. But there are full stretch episodes where the A plot is like, we are like in contact with a race of aliens that like may want to destroy us. Yeah. And then the B plot is a guy's like, I have cancer and she's never going to know I have a crush on her. And you're like, oh my God.
We got to figure out, balance these stakes out a little bit across stories.
There's several episodes that have that exact like seesaw feel to them. And it doesn't work great. A lot of money was spent on the show. The result is you do get a couple of real standout set pieces. Obviously the boat, like the nano wire thing. Yeah. Little sequence is like,
tell Dr. Odyssey to stay away from that canal. He's not going to be able, no doctor is going to be able to fix what happened there.
Yeah, that's a good call. Dr. Odyssey's like, I was actually the first person to get cut in half by nanowire.
That's when he realized.
Yeah, so you sometimes you see the money being put to good use in moments like that, where it's like, this is like insanely cool sci-fi, like freaky visuals. And then other times you get people just sort of in sci-fi looking set rooms talking.
Yeah. The video game is a little tough. It looks amazing sometimes. They basically go into this virtual world. They're playing like this VR game, and it's rendered to look like as realistic as real life. And there's some shots when it's like, oh, you didn't quite get there. But then there's some shots where it looks amazing. So,
Yeah, exactly. It I think that is sort of where I ended up feeling about the visuals of like, for that much money, it should always look great.
Yeah.
Like they spent so much on this fucking show.
The ideas are fantastic.
Honestly, I think Netflix might have thought the same thing, all things considered, because it got we're going to give you one season. We're going to give you one shortened season to wrap it up. Is like basically the Netflix equivalent of pulling the plug. And for this much money, and for not even just the show cost, but what they're paying Benioff and Weiss to come in there, they're like, we thought you were giving us the next Game of Thrones. What the fuck is this?
Which
not
is
Game
like
of Thrones.
Well, it's a really funny thing to imagine. It's like, okay, so you adapted book, it went well.
Here's book.
Here's book. You do it
also,
again.
Knowing the specific of what went wrong when they adapted book, which is when they ran out of book, and it turns out that like so much of the pathos and the heart was coming from the book. This is not a book that has any heart. From everything that I've read about this book and the series of books,
sci-fi.
These are hard sci-fi books about like the game theory of interacting with an omniscient race
and like theoretical physics.
Yeah,
like
so
what,
it's
like the titular 3-body problem is, what if there were 3 suns? Is it 3 suns or 2 suns? It's like a multi-star system that causes the planet to like speed run its extinction events, like 10x what we have on Earth, or 100x or something.
And so a lot of what we're doing is dealing, like I enjoy the idea of having, top scientific minds having to grapple with like top like military intelligence minds.
Dude, the wall facer program. Are you on board?
Exactly.
Would you be a wall facer?
I mean, I'd be on board with seeing it. We're never going to see it, right? Like it's just over.
What if I told you that the way you stop the aliens from killing everyone on Earth is if you come up with a plan to stop them, but you don't tell anybody? Because if you tell anybody, they will know. So you just keep it right here. You just keep it right here.
So that's a sci-fi book premise, but unfortunately, this is a television show. So
so we're getting, the problem is, we have all this heady stuff that, like the scientific minds grappling with the military minds. I love Liam Cunningham playing like the assholiest of like British asshole
the
military
Onion Knight
guys. He's such a fucking annoying piece of shit. And our girl Jin Chang, played by Jess Hong, who I think is very good, is having to deal with him. It's just the fact that on top of like this group of like science geniuses that are having to sort of solve this problem, they also are going through all this stupid interpersonal melodrama, and it just sucks. So they never figured it out, and now they never will. Right? Is it officially? Like,
apparently, there's a couple more episodes coming to wrap it up.
I think it's like 3 or 4 episodes is what they're releasing of it. Like half of the second season.
They set up so much more than that.
It's so many storylines.
It's not going to work. So it's unfortunate. A ton of interesting ideas at play, and none of which are credited to Benioff and Weiss.
Are you saying that Benioff and Weiss might have had too many different tendrils of stories? Now they're gonna have to do a really rush hack job to try to appease the fans and put everything together in a neat bow? Is that what you're saying? It's gonna happen?
But
they wouldn't do that.
Well, so that makes me really worried, because comparatively the end of Game of Thrones was way worse than the show, but the show had been at 10 up to that point. What happens if the show is a 7? And then they have to do a fucking rush job.
And they have to
this could get really bad.
Really ugly. Yeah.
I'm gonna give it a shot because I was like reasonably invested in the show. But
just to see what happens. I was gonna ask, what would you guys do if you went outside and the sky blinked and then a giant eyeball started looking around, and then the words "You are bugs" came on every screen in the entire world? What would you do if that happened?
Loot and riot.
Loot what? Loot whiskey?
Well, the liquor store is probably the first stop, but it's also the closest to my house.
Okay, so we're running in there first.
Dane, you're a STEM guy. How feasible is it for an intelligent species to put an entire AI supercomputer into the size of an atom and fold space-time and transport it across many, many light years?
You think Dane's allowed to tell us this type of
I think it's all NDA. Yeah.
No comment. Under the doctrine of the Space Force.
So like I said, there's so many interesting ideas in there. So many cool like settings, place, locations. I think I said this in our mid-year pod. They give us like some scenes, maybe an episode in this like prequel area where one person has made contact with the aliens and forms like a little mini society based on that. that are all hiding out, living on a giant boat, like a ship. That's a show. We don't have to fucking speed run through all this shit. That's such a compelling TV show. It's like a cult based on real alien contact taking place, like Dr. Odyssey style.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
you
know what I mean?
Sucking and fucking.
And then instead of that, we're just getting like, I don't know, man. I really like her. I don't know. Frustrating show, but I mean, good enough to hold your attention.
Three Body Problem on Netflix is Drew's number 4. Dane, we are at your number 3. Top 3.
My number 3. We're back to anime. This is a show that I started watching. It aired first at the beginning of January, and it like ran for like weekly releases for 24 episodes or something like that. It's called Delicious in Dungeon.
Oh, I've heard of this.
Yeah. It's just this nice little, quirky crossover where it's like fantasy, but it's a cooking anime, right? And that's how it starts. And then it quickly turns into like, do I deserve to live? I survived today. I hunted this monster. I ate it. It nourished me. And so I should put its energy to good use and continue on with my life. And hopefully I don't get eaten, but if I do, that's fine. And I'm autistic and deeply isolated from the people around me that I care about. It's a crazy show. The first half of it is straight up just like they're going through this dungeon. It's like a human, an elf, a little hobbit, and a dwarf man, and they're trying to save the human sister who got eaten by a dragon. And so they're going to go back down into the dungeon and get her remains out and resurrect her. And they go down and they have no money, so they're eating the monsters that they kill on the way down. So it's like, oh, we fought a basilisk, right? It's like a chicken snake monster. They take its eggs and then they have like omelets and shit. They like cut up mandrakes and turn it into a stew. It's really cute and wholesome. And then it starts getting really, really deep and existential while also still being cute and wholesome. The manga that it's based off of, the writer, it's a woman for starters. That's big, apparently. There's
in anime,
not a lot
there's
of
never
in manga.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay.
There's not a lot of women manga writers. She's apparently like hugely obsessed with CRPGs and like will always romance the elf girl. It's very funny. She like ended her story a little quickly so that she could go play Baldur's Gate 3.
Nice.
Like,
that's cool.
I think probably why I really liked this so much is it's a really good twist on like tropes that are everywhere in fantasy and stories and games and anything that has like a plot. You've got your 4-person party and you've got your magic person, your thief.
So like what? Because what you're describing, that's why the whole time it makes sense, kind of the CRPG Baldur's Gate whole aspect of it, because basically like what you're describing kind of feels like you are just like playing a RPG with friends and each taking on a role. What is like the ratio balance of the like light, fun adventure aspect to the existentialism that you're describing?
It starts out being very incredibly whimsical, with the exception of like the opening scene is like everybody getting like warped out of the dungeon and the main character's sister dying and getting eaten by the dragon. And then for like 10 or 11 episodes, it's just whimsical, going deeper into the dungeon, fighting monsters. And then it like really, really quickly stops being full whimsy. But kind of like one of the themes, right, is like living and enjoying the life that you have, because like something could eat you, and that's just like how the world works. So it does like still take the time to go out and show you like fun character interactions and everybody getting to know each other better. it's got the CRPG thing of like, some of the characters know each other, but like others are just like coworkers, and they just find this dwarf hanging out, and he joins their party. So it's like, like, oh, tell me about your life up until now. Oh, that's cool. I understand you better, and that helps me grow as a person, and I'll tell you about myself. It's just lovely.
Is it like just all one, like, is this the only season of it that we're on?
No,
Is this the full story?
So when the show hit the what the fuck stage, about 10 episodes in, I was like, okay, so I'm just gonna read all of this. And so I read all of it, and they adapted about half of the series already. So
and it's pretty much the exact same plot. Like the beats are all there.
It feels like maybe like it's a little bit faster, but that might just be by nature of like adapting from like a comic medium to a show.
Yeah, I'm curious if it has that feel of the improvisational nature of Dungeons and Dragons. Do you get that at all from either the manga or the anime? Like they're just kind of making it up.
I mean, like not story wise, but character wise. So the main character, like basically the author accidentally created like an autistic icon. So like lots of autistic people are like, wow, I love Laios. Like he's just like me for real. And she's like, oh, I wasn't trying to write him autistic, so you're reading into that. I don't know what's up with you.
It's just weird.
Yeah.
He's just quirky like that.
Yeah, and his like special interest is monsters. And so he's walking around with like a monster like handbook that also like tells you ways to like cook the monster.
Are there any friendly monsters that they don't want to eat?
Yeah, and that's like a whole thing. It's like remember they're monsters, and like they're doing what they got to do to survive, and like the more you know about them, the safer you are. But like, it's still a monster, and it's going to, it's got its nature, and we're no different from them. We all have our natures. And
who's the real monster?
That's yeah.
This is great. I will try to check this out. Where can people watch this?
I think that this was also, so Netflix has been doing like a bunch of anime, I guess.
Good.
Awesome. They had like weird rights to JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, and I think that was like the big first thing where they were like, you know what, we should really get into this anime deal.
And I love me some food. Shows about food, movies about food. That's always my bag. So,
yeah.
That sounds great.
Tie this into a Netflix comment from earlier. It just made sense, anime and Netflix together, because Netflix is all about how long can we keep you on the service and just have your eyeballs continuously watching it? And anime, it's like, cool, there's 10,000 episodes of this like already for you.
Yeah.
So like, here you go. Here's more. Keep pumping those ads.
It's called Delicious in Dungeon, and it's Dane's number 3. Great pick, Dane. Number 3 for Hunter is next. What is your number 3?
My number 3, I think we're gonna have to wait on for just a little bit. It is Shogun.
Do you have that, Dane?
Yeah, we're not going to wait much longer, but we are going to wait just a little bit.
All right, we're at my number 3, which is Fallout.
Save it.
Wow. Oh my God.
Save it.
This is great.
Look at us. Right. Look at us go. Love to
Drew,
see it.
Number 3. What you got?
Have we entered good shows yet? This is an important distinction.
Hey, man. Hey, come on. Survivor.
Yeah, it's kind of a funny show to include. But I really wanted to give a shout out to SNL for being good again.
Okay, I was wondering. I was going to make a
season.
joke, but then I thought, he might actually have it.
It's really interesting because I'm a long tenured like historian of SNL. The further we get from it, the more I realize how dire this drought has been for the last probably decade. Maybe a little bit more than that for SNL. Things got really dark there. We wanted to deny it. We wanted to deny it because, we wanted to enjoy our boys. Our good neighbor guys got on. And also there was this weird like stewardship thing going on where like the recurring hosts became the former cast members of the golden era like 5 years before. And what it created was this milieu of like true depression when you watched it, because you'd be watching someone host who you remember from when it was good, and they're doing it now that it's not good. And it became sort of self-referential in that way. But like, like 2013, 2014, you're the final people who were still there, like Sandberg or whoever, they had to leave. When it gets to a point that people are cheering for you, like when you enter the scene and you're like just a cast member, like you have to go. That's not what it's for. And they were just absolutely floundering for a while. And it's really interesting what's happening this season because it's more culturally relevant than it's ever been since that era. Like scenes are going viral, episodes are going viral. They are finding a new crop of good, reliable hosts. Nate
Ariana Grande.
Ariana Grande is a phenomenal host. I mean, I hope she does it regularly. She's actually only hosted twice, which is crazy because like she has enough sketches in those 2 episodes that you would think she's done it 5 times.
Domingo.
She's 100% gonna be there a bunch because she is. You can tell like she's game. Like she's ready to just go there and be like, put me as many sketches as possible. Like I just want to like participate in all this. Bargatze's a fun one because Bargatze's like the classic. Like I'm a comedian. Like I kind of have like one like my lane of just kind of playing myself.
The Washington.
But also you get the George Washington sketch, which is like one of the funniest fucking sketches of the last several years from SNL. So.
Yeah, he's really, really good at what he does. I think Shane Gillis could do it as much as he wants to. It's really his career arc has been so fucking interesting to watch. He
could have been there. He could have been a cast member.
He's such a fascinating comedian because it's almost like we were saying with Timmy, where doing that press tour, it was like, damn, he can make anyone like him. Shane has that in the comedy scene. Like Shane is able to blend with anyone much more than you would fucking think based on like just surface level, like dude, bro, idiot persona. We have people that like we trust to come in now. And this cast is really interesting because like it's very shaggy. Like right now, it's like this is about as big as an SNL cast can be. And certain like the newer repertory players are like mostly lost. Like you're not seeing much of them at all. And the people that like my brain thinks of as like the new people have actually been there for like 5 years. Which explains why they're doing so. Like Andrew Dismukes is really good at what he does. Like he is. Mikey Day, you can step out whenever you want to, buddy. Like we got a white guy. We got a good white guy. No,
you don't like Mikey Day?
Is it cake?
Is it cake?
So Mikey Day is
he's getting enough money from Is It Cake? You can fucking leave.
I hate Mikey Day. Yeah, you don't have to justify Mikey Day.
He's not. He's not a good sketch actor. He's a good sketch writer, and so he writes himself into sketches that do good. You know what I mean? But he's not a good sketch actor. He's not very funny. Like naturally, Dismukes is naturally very funny. James Austin Johnson is very funny. Marcelo is one of that's one of the cases of like SNL breaking a guy who's going to be world famous like very soon. Like it's already happening with him, but he having his background and having his like the energy that he's bringing, like it's a lot like when they found like not comparing where their careers are going to go or anything, but it's like when they were the ones that like broke Sandler or whatever, and it's what they were trying to do with like Pete Davidson of like we're going to take this stand-up like late teens, not ready to go because we want to like own him. We want to like Lauren wants him to be like under the Lauren umbrella. He's gonna be a guy. And then even dudes like Michael Longfellow is really, really solid. Everyone that I've mentioned so far outside of James Austin Johnson, Dismukes, Marcelo, Longfellow, and then even like Devin Walker, stand-ups. This is like one of the keys to like a good SNL cast is it is a mixture of stand-ups and writers slash like sketch actors. These guys are they're bringing like the natural funniness to sketches that are written by people that have like a more studied approach to writing, and so the result is something really that's like just working, even though like looking at it's almost like one of those teams that where everyone you know, in the NBA where like everyone just has like the right role as opposed to just being like everyone is a fucking all-star on the team. Like the 2007, everyone on the cast of SNL was a fucking all-star. Their career output is like down to a person is
Fred
remarkable.
Sandberg.
Yeah, it's every single person, and it was a smaller cast, and it was just like, wow, everyone is great. This isn't like that. It's just like people know their roles. It's all working the right way. It's this fun. It's such a crazy situation when Mikey Day and Heidi Gardner are like the fucking parents of everyone else here. They're both on their 8th season at SNL quietly, which is kind of insane because they felt like the ushering in of like a reset in the middle of the reset. Even Shay and Jost have figured out what to do on Weekend Update, which felt like
they got a good thing going.
I feel like they've had Weekend Update going well. Like that was like basically the only thing they had going during the drought. Shay and Jost have like really great chemistry together.
I will say Seth Meyers was not the best, but it wasn't terrible.
Weekend Update?
Yeah.
I think you need two. I think you need two people. I think
2 people works best. And now also Seth you get to count as the head writer if we're talking all stars. So shouts to him. But they figured out just
Weekend Update.
No, you're right. Shay and Jost figured out like the joke swap dynamic thing that is like it's like printing money for them in terms of like impressions online. So it's been really interesting to watch people sort of come into their own. Haven't even mentioned Sarah Squirm, who's like a really, really inspired addition to the show. I listened to her like years ago on she went on But Still because she had been touring as an opening act for like Brandon Wardell, and this was just like 4 years ago. This wasn't that long ago.
Did you see her do Nosferatu last week?
No.
Dude, so
that's
good.
Great.
So funny.
It's just
rocks.
A really inspired choice, not the type of person you see get cast on SNL because like you would think that they need to fit into such a narrow lane, but she's also good at like being a supporting character in normal sketches. And then she's bringing the insanity, like aesthetic driven comedy that she's good at.
Do you think like maybe SNL's like back to being good because they're like letting them be a little weirder? Like
definitely.
Like because like I think that was like Kyle's issue, right? Because like when I didn't know any of Kyle's like previous stuff, so I see him on SNL and I'm like, this guy sucks. And then I start seeing more of his other stuff and I'm like, oh, this guy's actually really, really, really funny. And so is that Beck Bennett guy. And maybe I've just been entirely unfair to both of them.
They just didn't get a shot.
I think that's entirely right. I think that SNL has kind of realized that SNL is never going to be what SNL is never going to mean to the larger society what it meant 20, 30, 40 years ago. Like that's behind us. That's dead. So like stop trying to be everything for all people and
see Saturday
weird.
Night movie that nobody saw.
The right wingers were trashing the Y2K movie because not because it was a Kyle movie, but because of what's her name, the Snow White girl, Rachel
Ziegler. Rachel Ziegler.
I still need to see that movie.
They're like, she sucks, and I'm like, you can, but Kyle.
But like, it is a thing that I like that we can have a little bit more stuff that is out of the box and it doesn't feel like, ooh, this is the one weird SNL sketch that you're going to get every episode. Like they do still have like things like the Domingo sketch, which are just like funny, mass appeal. Shit's going to go viral on TikTok or whatever, because that can just work for everybody. But also, and I'm just in the same episode, you can have the very much a Sarah Squirm written sketch of going to my best friend's house, the like pre-recorded one that devolves into like fucking insanity of your best friend's dad like mass murdering people, but loving the smell of your best friend's house. And all of these like little things are like kind of pushing it, and it's not we're sneaking in the one weird one at like an hour and 20 minutes into the show.
For time.
Yeah.
That's like I always liked when like John Mulaney, like when he would come back and rehost during the drought, because it's like It had the John
musical?
Mulaney. Yeah, it's like I'm John Mulaney. I'm a legend. I can do whatever the fuck I want to.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, you're right. You are John Mulaney. We're gonna get weird with it.
Yeah.
The one thing that I have about this season, and I'm not mad at it, but it's just almost like a
50th,
note.
The anniversary.
Yeah, it's a thing of like, man, that's a lot of Dana Carvey in this season. Like, it's just like and listen, I love Dana Carvey, so I'm not like mad at it, but it is just a thing where it's like, I hope that once this season ends, SNL will just be like, thank you all for your service. Now, please leave so we can just focus on these guys, because I think that one of the reasons why SNL has not really broken through and the cast members have not broken through is because they are so obsessed. The Alec Baldwin Trump thing was the worst thing to ever happen to SNL, because it was just like, we gotta get celebrities in here to do a political bit, and so now everybody is just expecting to see like, oh well, Trump said so, like we gotta see what Trump said, and meanwhile, like Baldwin's Trump was never even a good Trump. Like, we now have a much better Trump impersonator who is on the cast of SNL. Yeah.
They've been easing off that since the election. Like, the second half of the 50th has been a little bit lighter on that, and they're they're building up to like the big anniversary show next month.
It's going to ramp up again, though. I'm sure it's going to ramp up again, and then we'll see what happens from there afterwards.
Yeah, I mean, election season, it always becomes a thing. Really, it even goes back to when Tina Fey would come on and be Sarah Palin, like, and it was like a huge, it was a return, and it was like event television when she did that. Two more things I want to shout out about, I think, why this is happening. Obviously, COVID, I think, forced them to really ramp up the pre-tape resources that they provide to their cast, like the quality of production and the speed at which they're able to turn over really good videos has gone up. Like the Lonely Island guys, shout out to the Lonely Island Seth Meyers podcast, talk about this all the time. When they go back, they're like, oh my God, they have warehouses, they have studios now. Like, holy shit. We had to just like go outside and make a video. In 2021, quietly, Don Roy King stopped directing the show, and now it's I want to say Liz Kelly is her name. Liz Patrick, sorry. The direction of the show has gotten a lot better the last few years. That really comes down to like micro choices. If you're talking like live sketch comedy, it's like the timing of cuts and like camera placement. Don Roy King had been doing it since like the start of like the golden era, since like 2006, and he really lost his fucking fastball, and it led to a lot of awkward feeling scenes like over the last decade or so.
Those edits are just burned into the show. You can't go back and recut it.
Exactly. And exactly. And so like there's so much more vigor and pace to the live sketches now. Like you can genuinely feel like the shift. Yeah. So shout out to Liz Patrick for that.
Awesome pick. SNL 50th season. Timmy hosting and musical guesting this week as we're recording. Probably will already happen by the time.
Right as the Oscar voting just opened up.
Let's go,
people.
It's happening, baby. We're locked in. That's Drew's number 3. Dane, number 2. Top 2.
Now we can talk about Shogun.
Okay,
let's go.
Shogun. So this one was my number 5. It could have been higher. This is kind of the show of the year in a lot of ways. I think the biggest thing for me was that it came out like right around the time I was getting diagnosed and like all that shit was going down. So I was not watching Shogun.
Not in the headspace for like reading heavy subtitles.
For those of you who are just joining the podcast, Ernest was the first person to have COVID.
Oh, yeah. I'm Dr. Odyssey. And then having to go back and try to dive into this show as I'm going through chemo was a huge undertaking, because this is a heavy lift of a show, because it's in Japanese, it's heavily subtitled, like it's a big, meaty, like plot heavy story. So it was tough. It was tough. And so that's the only reason why it's like at number 5 and not number 1 for me. But it's an incredible show. It's just, it's a lot to get into. It's not an easy breezy show, but it is a fucking achievement, regardless of my own situation. It is a fucking home run on practically every level.
Yeah, I think like I didn't watch it when it came out. I watched it after you watched it, I think. Because I think I was trying to ask, like, should I give this a try? And I think I sat down and it was like, oh, this is like heavy subtitles, which like
You got to lock in.
Yeah,
you cannot
I should
be
have
multitasking.
expected. Yeah. I don't know. I was pretty gripped pretty quickly. And the subject matter also, like the theme is basically like everybody dies. People are constantly dying in brutal and horrifying ways, but it's never like drawn out. I don't want to say never, but like it's pretty just like quick, clean violence. And there's so much of the show is just like coming to grips with like that's just like how the world works here.
Well, specifically this world, this island nation that is cut off. That's one of the best things about the show and the way it renders its world. It's like this is very much a product of its geography, right? We have the earthquake episode that shows just how commonplace it is for people's lives to be just destroyed by the land shifting underneath their feet, and how this is just you can see how it influences everything. That their culture is a reflection of their environment.
One of the big things, though, like touching to that, is that I don't know. There's such a way when watching the show, I just kind of kept thinking to myself, like, there's so many ways that this could go wrong, and not even a way that won't be like it always was going to have the floor of being like really beautiful and like having great performances and stuff like that. But if they would have fucked up the perspective, and like so many other creators would have just been like the Cosmo Jarvis character, John Blackthorne, like we were spending the entire show strictly through his perspective. He's gonna be like more the white savior guy to come up in here. That is the traditional way that you would make this show and have that be the entrance into this world. But I think that what is so genius about the way that the show is constructed is that is like an avenue to introduce us to this world. But then we meet the Haruyuki Sanada character, the Lord
Tokugawa.
Yeah, and we meet him. And then we discover that it's this whole thing about this, it's family dynamics. It is these families, and it is these families that have had like decades and hundreds and centuries of either feuds or at least just like a little bit of bad blood, a little bit of tension between each other. And they're just waiting for one shoe to drop for them to be like, cool, we're going to war. And that is really like the entry point that we get into that. And then the focus shifts a bit. And it's like, John Blackthorne's over here. We're not completely leaving him behind the Anjin, but it's so much more interesting what this story is over here. And it is just very unflinchingly Japanese story to the point that there's so many cultural choices that feel insanely foreign to us. I think specifically of the hanging the fish outside the door that Blackthorne does to like prove a point of like, nobody ever take that down or else I'll kill you, ha ha ha, whatever. And then somebody does take it down because of the smell and has to kill himself because of it. And it's like little things like that, like how this whole culture, their relationship with the idea. Well, it's translation, but the whole concept of honor, and coming from somebody who's, you know, I don't want to call him a pirate, but he is like somebody who is like just a little bit of an outlaw of the Catholic Church in some ways. He might have done some pirating in his day, a little bit of pillaging. It's something that is playing.
His name is Blackthorne. I mean, come on.
And I know he's Portuguese, I believe, correct? And then they just make him English for the sake of us not reading too many translations.
Yeah, but he's Protestant, right? Right?
He's Protestant.
Yeah,
Protestant.
He hates those Catholic bastards, and I like him for that. That's
it's cool because it is showing.
No,
like,
he's English. It says he's English. According to Wikipedia,
no. But I'm talking about
but he's speaking Portuguese, but he is English.
Oh, gotcha. Yes.
Because they don't know English because they don't know the English exist.
Exactly. Yes.
Yeah.
That's what it is. It's a fantastic show, and the performances are like truly. It's one of those things where a lot of them are like people who, if you've watched more Japanese like cinema and TV, then you would see these faces. But for American audiences,
Hiroyuki Sanada is all over. He's such a that guy.
Yeah.
Like he's been in everything.
He's been in everything. Even Anna Sawai is in Pachinko. She's in
Monarch, Legacy of Monsters.
She is
speaking of the Apple TV.
Apple TV heads.
So incredible in this show.
Incredible.
The layers of humanity that she adds to the story. She makes it so mysterious, so just transfixing. Your eyes are just glued to her. You have no idea what she's going to do next, how she's going to navigate this world.
She's probably the best performance in the show.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah, she's incredible. I really love it's been a while since I watched the show whenever it was out, so I'm gonna butcher some of the pronunciation.
Yeah, it was early.
But Yabushigi, who plays kind of like the other lord who's like scheming against
the friend
Toranaga and everything. Like, I really love their dynamic together. I think that both of them are like absolutely incredible performances, and their scenes together are electric while you are reading a subtitle. And that is such a high degree of difficulty to achieve, where you can feel enthralled and fully immersed and locked in on a scene, a dramatic scene where there isn't sword fighting, which there is some of that too, but like where it is just this dramatic scene of people talking and you are locked in, and it's a completely different language for 45 minutes.
It's awesome. A home run. It's undoubtedly the show of the year. Deserves all the accolades, deserves all the awards. Very curious to see what they do with the second season, because I believe they fully adapted the book with this. So we'll see if they go the anthology route or if they continue this story. I have heard rumors that they will deviate heavily from this and set it in an entirely different era of Japan. So we'll see. I'm excited. They're shooting it right now. That's Shogun. It is Dane's number 2. It is Hunter's number 3, and it is my number 5. Hunter, we are at your number 2.
My number 2 is Ripley.
Okay. You're gonna have to save that one.
Let's go. Let's do it. I knew this had to be up high. Let's go.
But now we can talk about Fallout, right? Oh wait, no. Number 3. Sorry, my number 3 was Fallout. I just misread my list. My number 3 is Fallout.
This is so
my number 2. Okay. This is a very late entry. This is a show that I watched this week leading up to this episode. And very early on in the first episode, I knew it was going to be on the list. And I didn't know it was going to make it all the way up to number 2 until I binged through the entire season. It is the Jerrod Carmichael Reality Show. This is streaming on Max, the one to watch for HBO. And it is a documentary series that is credited to be directed by Ari Katcher, but is essentially the brainchild of Jerrod Carmichael, turning the cameras on himself, on his own life. Guys, this show absolutely floored me. Like, this gets the highest recommendation I can possibly give. This could easily make a run for my show of the year. I am thinking about watching it again just because of how taken I was by it. Every episode sort of centers around a different theme in Jerrod's life. The first 2 are mostly about himself and his relationships. In the first episode, we find out that he is in love with Tyler, the creator, and that he has this like unrequited like infatuation with his best friend. So we explore that. In the second episode, we see him sort of traverse the dating life as a gay man, as a newly like out of the closet gay man, and find a new love that he wants to go study with. And we also see him go to therapy, and all of this is being filmed. And one of the craziest things about this show is to see how willing the people in Jerrod's life are to have all of these interactions on video. And the kicker, the thing that shoots this thing up into my number 2 spot and could probably just be my show of the year, is that in the back half of the season, Jerrod basically does a Minding the Gap, the film, the documentary.
Okay. You got me. You got me all in now.
Like, that's basically what this is it's all building up to the moment in which Jerrod is like confronting his mom in front of the cameras, and she's a homophobe and she doesn't accept him coming out as a gay man. She is fully in the Church of Christ and says that God does not approve of homosexuals, and she is holding a conditional love over her son, and that it becomes a major crux of the story as we get into the final couple episodes of this show. It's only 8 episodes. I crushed this thing in like 2 days. These are short episodes. It's basically like a 4-hour experience. And there's a lot of other things in there along the way. There's an episode where we center on his dad. There's an episode where we center on his assistant. We get a big look at his boyfriend, Mike, and their relationship and their attempt to have an open relationship. There's just so much here. And again, like I said, it is just mind-blowing to see how willing these people are to have these moments filmed, to have these raw, just absolutely gutting, real-ass conversations captured on camera. It blew my mind. I couldn't believe it. I was like, what? How is this real? How are we doing this? How is anybody okay with this? It's crazy.
So
it's like very, very personal stuff.
It's basically Minding the Gap mixed with Zach Stone is going to be famous.
All right. So that's another piece. That is another piece. Bo Burnham makes an appearance in this show as anonymous. He is not credited. He does not want his name attached to this at all. But he appears with a mask, a ski mask, and goggles over his face to talk to Jerrod. So basically, there are moments where Jerrod sort of like takes a step back and talks about the show with Anonymous and about the premise and how it's going and is it working? Are people going to connect with this? Is this something I should be doing? And it's Bo, and Bo is there to talk to him about it. There's another episode that focuses on one of Jerrod's stand-up friends and how he's trying to coach him and bring him up. And there's just a lot of nuance and a lot of little wrinkles in here that I thought were fascinating, where it's not just Jerrod doing a vanity project about his life, but it's also him challenging the people in his life to have these emotional breakthroughs, and then them maybe challenging him back and basically telling him like, hey, back off. Like, you can't just put a camera in my face and force me to have an emotional breakthrough because that's what you did. That doesn't mean that that's what I have to do, right? You don't tell me what to do. You can't just like barge into my life and force me to go through something just because you went through it. So there's a lot of gray areas, and there's a lot of really interesting sort of juxtapositions and dichotomies presented here. And I don't think there are any easy answers. But one thing I couldn't stop thinking about is, as we hurtle into Trump 2.0 and all of the horrible things this guy's going to do, and the attempts that he is going to have on the, recognizing people's sexuality and gender and the way they are, it's really important to have a show like this where it's just, here's a successful Black gay man giving us a very unfiltered or close to unfiltered look at his life and his existence and all the beautiful and positive and negative things that come along with it. It gets my highest recommendation. It could easily be my number one. Like, I really thought about putting it at the top. It's just that I literally just watched it like a couple days ago. So I'm kind of still stewing on it, but it floored me, man. It's really good. It's really, really good.
That's great to hear, man.
Yeah.
I really didn't hear all that much buzz about this show, like especially whenever it came to like year end and everything like that. So I'm so glad to hear you give such glowing praise to it, because I love Jerrod Carmichael. I want nothing but the best for that guy.
I mean, it's a little weird to be this close to someone, to see the things you see in this and to hear the conversations you hear. I can see why it didn't hit, because it's just like, I don't know if everybody wants that. I don't think everyone wants to be that close. Like sometimes we want a little bit of remove. Sometimes we want a little bit of Dr. Odyssey. Not everyone wants Jerrod Carmichael Reality Show. Like this is pretty real. It's as real as it gets. So that's my number 2, the Jerrod Carmichael Reality Show. So now we're at Drew's number 2.
Well, I watched 2 new good shows that came out last year. One of which is Nobody Wants This on Netflix.
Oh, nice. I heard about this.
You watch it? Anyone?
No. I heard it was good.
I've seen this advertised for me after I finish literally anything on Netflix. The trailer starts playing, but I have not watched it.
This is the Kristen Bell.
Yeah, so Kristen Bell, one of our leading TV actors, and Adam Brody, who has been floating around for so long, winning, charming, likable. I just could not make that difficult transition from being, a quote unquote teen actor into an adult actor. The same thing happened to Penn Badgley, and he got You. His gap between, Gossip Girl and You is a little bit shorter, but same type of deal here. Pairs them together in what is essentially, it's a show that really just distills the feeling of like a super solid rom-com into television. It's done really effectively. It's an interesting wrinkle. It's very current and sometimes in a little bit of an annoying way. Kristen Bell's character, who, by the way, her sister is Justine Lupe, who is from Succession, Cameron's wifey. So she's great. They have like a girly like sex podcast, and it's like very like millennial core. That's when the show's at its worst, you would call it like millennial core. But it usually stays away from the pitfalls of that. So she's like relatively like pretty successful doing that. He is a rabbi looking to like get promoted within the system at his temple. Her podcast is called Nobody Wants This. It's really about the nature of their relationship because it's extremely inconvenient for both of them and literally everyone in all of their lives. Every episode you're met with like a new pitfall, the type of which you would run into like one if you were to watch a rom-com movie. You know what I mean? There would be one big trial tribulation. This is basically stretching it out into...
It's a bunch of little mini rom-coms.
Exactly.
With an overarching plot.
Yeah, because they're so diametrically opposed that dynamic doesn't really get old. And I think the reason it doesn't is because at the end of the day, you believe the chemistry that they have, and you believe that chemistry would have the power to overcome all of these obstacles that they're running into, like unlikely as it may seem. So much of the show and like the engine of the show requires you to buy Adam Brody and Kristen Bell, like, falling in love. And they're really, really good at it. They're both just good actors. Much is being made about him because, like I said, he's been sitting on the shelf since, was it the OC? What was his show?
He was in Jennifer's Body.
I think it is the OC. I think that's
it was the OC. The OC.
He's motherfucking Seth Cohen, like an iconic character. And then he just went away. I remember like in one of like the middle seasons of like The League, he pops up because he's the out of towner. And
shit, you're right. He is. Yeah.
And it's like, why is Adam Brody only showing up as in like one episode of The League? Like, where are you at, bro? I'm just so happy he's back because I didn't watch like all of the OC or even much of it, but he was really, really good in that role.
He was in a show called Fleischman is in Trouble with Jesse Eisenberg. He was really good in that.
Yeah. So I guess that means he's just kind of getting Jewish typecast. to be honest, he's Seth Cohen in that. He's Fleischman is in Trouble, and now he's Mr. Rabbi. His brother is Timothy Simons.
Yeah,
avid.
Let's go. Nice.
Avid physical media appreciator, Timothy Simons, playing
as he's most well known.
You won't believe this, but he's playing a tall, annoying guy. He's absolutely lovely in it. You love to watch him. There's like a little undercurrent brewing between him and her sister that's really fun to sort of keep track of. but yeah, it's just all of it's like semi-realistic about the fact that like this, like someone's gonna have to make a huge fucking sacrifice for this relationship to work. And yet it still maintains sort of like a feeling of lightness because like I said, we're stretching this out and we're trying to maintain rom-comminess. So it does a good job of doing that. You know what I mean? It's not groundbreaking in any way. It's not the best, most shining example of rom-com, but we're in a period of real dire straits for rom-coms, and this is a better example than I've seen in movies in quite some time. So wanted to give it a shout out.
I can't wait to check it out. I've heard lots of praise and I'm glad you watched it. This is great. It's nobody wants this.
It's just charming, like easy watch, but like not shallow.
On Netflix, and that is Drew's number 2. Dane, we're at your number 1. What is your show of the year?
My show of the year. It's a nice little animated show. I might get some heat for saying this. It's The New Norm.
No way.
No, it's not. The New
This
Norm.
is a joke.
Yeah, no, it's X-Men 97.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey,
Number 1.
wow.
Number 1.
This rocks, man. This show is awesome. This was my number 10.
Yeah. Ernest is wrong for that. I came on years ago with a hot take of like, there's no good X-Men media
Until now.
Yeah. So I did a full rewatch of the original series. And
which
you don't
really drops off.
Yeah.
There's a point where it just like takes a fucking nosedive.
I gotta ask the question, why and are you okay? These are just the questions that have to be asked whenever somebody says I'm watching through the X-Men movies.
No, not the original
show, the cartoon
show.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, with like Yellow Wolverine and big assed Rogue or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're trying to take Rogue's butt away from freedom lovers like myself. Yeah,
they're stealing his DEI yacht from us.
And the original show, it's like it's really old, right? So the animation is kind of dog shit.
Janky.
It's got like heavy themes, but it's like still definitely a kid's show, so it's not like really going all in on anything.
Yeah.
You just get like the random moment of like Charles Xavier like shooting Magneto with the Holocaust beam, or like everybody died in this timeline, so you have to like go back and only this one person watched everybody die. X-Men
so
90
cable coming in,
Yeah. They like in the original series, they like don't like Cable just like exists and they don't tell where Cable comes from. They remedy that in X-Men 97.
Dude, it's so good. Oh, they really knocked it out of the park.
The best thing I can say about X-Men 97 is that it's what X-Men should be. It's ridiculous and campy and it's all nonsense.
Soapy.
Yeah.
Just so dramatic, like over the top drama all the time.
It's like Charles Xavier and his fucking love life, Cyclops and his love life, and like they bring in Madeline Pryor, so we get 2 Jean Greys, but one's a clone, and it's like it knows it's a kid's show, but it knows that it's like a show that was made for people who used to be kids. So there's some stuff later on in the season that's like pretty brutal. They do a genocide.
Yeah, man.
That's
the episode, man. Remember it.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's very well animated. There is like some controversy about what the head director Bo DeMeo.
Yeah, he's out. Yeah,
he's out. So it's curious to see if him being out means that the show drops off a cliff. And in the next season, yeah. But I mean,
to be seen.
Yeah, if they keep doing what they're doing and just like the spirit of X-Men, just getting real weird with it, it could continue to be really incredible.
The animation looks stunning throughout, and there are some moments that like just take your breath away. There's one towards the end, this battle between Magneto and Wolverine that it's just like, oh my God, this is not for children. This is very intense.
You're like, why didn't he do that the entire time? Why has he just been letting this guy with metal on his bones just run around and do whatever he wanted to?
So good. Like, the movies could never. Like, could you imagine like Ian McKellen ripping Hugh Jackman's like bones out of his body and like blood shooting everywhere? That's fucking crazy. It's such an achievement. Like, I don't understand how they were able to make a cartoon revival this good and this emotionally impactful and cram this much plot. Like, they are burning through different storylines from the comics in like not a lot of episodes. It's only a 10 episode season, and they're doing like 5 or 6 major storylines.
That's like what I'm saying about they just like do an episode where it's like, all right, Madeline Pryor's here, and then like 2 episodes later they're like, all right, Madison Pryor storyline done. We're done with that.
Yeah. They give you just enough, and it doesn't feel like, you're getting gypped or you're getting the Spark Notes version, the Cliff Notes version or whatever. You're getting enough, and you feel after these short little episodes like you got a full story. It's crazy how they do it.
There's a lot of like really good like individual character moments for each of the Storm has a great little mini arc.
Ooh, so good.
Magneto at the beginning, and then towards the end, Xavier's not in it for a while. He eventually comes back from having like
you're waiting for it the
sex.
whole time. You're like, he's not dead.
We get some like really good Cyclops, Jubilee, and
Scott. Cyclops is like, what if I had 2 wives?
What if I had 2 wives?
Bad. Oh, that would be so bad if my wife was, if there were 2 of my wife. Oh no, what am I gonna do? Oh, I'm stressed. There's 2 wives of mine, and they're both my wife. What a loser. No, Cyclops is good. He gets better. It's better off for Cyclops in this show than it's historically been.
Cyclops, I think the best representation of Cyclops for me, other than X-Men 97 or like the comics, has literally been X-Men Evolution, when Cyclops is like a 17-year-old kid. Like, Cyclops is like pretty historically been like a piece of shit. And it's not, except for in like the original animated series or the comics, where it's like, he's not a piece of shit. He means well. He means well.
Shout out to Gambit, who
really great. Gambit.
I mean, remember, it is like one of my episodes of the year. It's so good. And then to watch that, and then like 2 months later,
Deadpool and
Wolverine, and it's like the most doo-doo garbage bullshit you've ever seen in your life with Channing Tatum.
Everyone's like, we love Gambit, and I'm like, oh no, you shouldn't love this Gambit. I love the good.
It's like
Gambit.
the spirit Halloween version of Gambit just showing up. God damn it. You guys didn't tap in for 97, I can tell.
Yeah,
hey,
you
James,
should.
No.
Save it.
This is great, man. What a worthy pick for your number one.
Yeah.
It's X-Men 97. I want to rewatch it. I might dive in. I don't know when the second season is coming, but I may not be able to wait.
Yeah.
Who knows?
Just lovely camp. It's just a bunch of horny nerds running around in spandex. It's great.
Yeah, a fucked up family of weirdos. It's Dane's number one. It's X-Men 97. Hunter, we are at your number one.
Listen, in the same way Dane just has to be true to himself, I just have to be true to myself and say that war never changes because my number one is Fallout.
Wow, yeah.
And here's the thing. Is Fallout the best made show of last year? Probably not. But
it's one of them.
I do actually think that's when they announced that there was a Fallout TV show, my expectations were in the fucking gutter. Like, I just assumed that it was going to be trash. And then I hear that not only are they making a Fallout show, but Amazon is at the helm of it. And it's like, well, this is going to be like some soulless garbage.
And then you hear it's the team from Westworld.
And then it's the team from Westworld coming in. And then even they released the stills of it. And it like, looked really washed out and ugly, and I was like kind of out on the show. And it was only because I just so happened to injure myself and be caught up, like where I was stuck on a couch and couldn't move for like I had my surgery literally the week before the show premiered on Amazon Prime. And then it just kind of came out and like hit me like a warm bath that was like everything that I needed. It was everything that I wanted a Fallout show to be in like my best possible scenario of like what it could possibly look like. This world realized in a TV setting where you have these different cast of characters, you have these different like sects that we have going on, these different like clans, the humor, because that is like deep down one of the biggest things about Fallout is that it is, despite the morbidness and the nihilism and everything else, like it is this funny black comedy at its core. And the show just kind of nailed it. And I got to give a shout out, especially to the two creators who made this, who have like pretty much have like no credits. Like this is a true, like they just were given the car keys by Amazon. They just took a swing with them, and bless them for doing that. It's Geneva Robertson Dworet, who was a producer on Captain Marvel, or wrote the screenplay or co-screenplay of Captain Marvel, and then the Tomb Raider, the Alicia Vikander movie. Those are her credits. And then Graham Wagner, who's a comedy writer. He's a guy who wrote like 50 plus episodes of Portlandia, 18 episodes of Silicon Valley, a couple episodes of The Office, things like that, Baskets. So they brought like the comedy guy in, and then they have somebody who knew a little bit of the machine, and it made this beautiful marriage that got this incredible show with unbelievable performances, especially like Ella Purnell, who I think other than this, her biggest thing that people would know her for is Yellow Jackets, a show that I really need to finish catching up on because that's a really cool show. But otherwise,
she's great in this.
Yeah, she's incredible. Aaron Morton as Maximus, that little squire boy, he feels like he is going to be just a cut and dry stock character that you are going to get. And then I really love a little bit where his art goes. But my king is Walton Goggins in this fucking movie.
Hell yeah.
And Walton Goggins is so goddamn good. And especially seeing how he becomes Ghoul, which it takes the entire season to through flashbacks to get that story, is like the most satisfying. It's like just clapping my hands.
Nailed it.
So, like a really neat like a little story that I was seeing around the like the press rollout for the show was they like got they got the games right for all the cast. They're like, play it, get a feel, understand the world and whatever. And they, offered that to Walton Goggins, and he's like, I'm going to like decline specifically so that there's like at least one actor on set who like isn't basing the quality of the show on the game. Like it needs to stand as its own show and be its own story without like you needing to have played the games to enjoy it.
Right. And it shows. I mean, he is doing something very different from the rest of the cast. Everyone else seems to be very much a part of the tapestry of the world and really selling this idea of showing you all the different ways that you could play a Fallout game and all the different tracks that you could explore this open world. And his character is a little bit different. His character is more so like, what if I could break the game a little bit? What if I am not trying to play the game, but I am the game?
It's a little bit more like this is like the player character who's like sank like 600 hours, like knows where everything is, like got their good full loadout. They've got their chems stocked up. They're good to go.
Yeah, just masterful.
It's such a good like television show too, where it just feels like each episode it's like, all right, we got these little mini like 2-3 episode arcs that you're getting where you meet these like great group of cast of guest stars that will come in. Of the Chris
Johnny
Parnell
Pemberton.
is incredible. Pemberton, Michael Rappaport up in there. Some Matt Berry just as every robot voice.
Oh
in the
yeah,
show.
he gets to be Mr. Handy. Yeah. That's great. That's honestly like incredible. Like, I mean, like I might have just kept like the regular Mr. Handy, but if you're gonna like recast Mr. Handy, Matt Berry's
Matt Berry's
choice.
perfect choice. Yeah. I just really did not think that there was much that a TV show about like set in the Fallout world could do to not only make a satisfactory story for like people who are diehard players of the games, but find a way to expand upon that. And especially where the season ends without getting into spoilers of what it goes down, and really kind of the vault tech behind it all and what these vaults even represent is such a great, smart idea. And as we go plunging into the apocalypse in the coming years to come and the great unknown of what's going to happen, having a show like this that just is directly
just blatantly
about,
spell it out.
Yeah, it's directly saying like, hey, where there is war, there's profits. Yeah. And like, what if we can find
techno-fascist oligarchy?
Yeah. It's such a, but it's done in such a smart, like soft video game sci-fi way that
well, the texture of it feels like you can tell that they put a lot of money and work into it. It shows. It's not like, again, to just throw a fucking swing at Deadpool and Wolverine, like the budget just evaporated into nothing. It's like, wow, you can tell the sets look amazing, the props, the costumes, the VFX, the creatures, like it's all there. You can tell it's incredibly well rendered. And just the experience of being in this world is incredibly satisfying. Like you said, even if you've never played the game, you get the same feeling you would. To shout out Westworld again, like that's a show that took a tank, but season 1 was super, super well done. And this gives me a similar feeling of just an incredibly like well realized, confident rendering of a big, expansive world and vision. So
are you saying Jonathan Nolan, the superior Nolan? Is that the take that we're coming to? Yeah. Better vision.
The show also like won't have the same issues as Westworld, simply because it's like it's not like a huge like mindfucky kind of like show. Like where Westworld was like really trying to make you think. This is more like, what if we did an episode that was a fetch quest of getting this guy's head out of a giant salamander? Like that'd be cool, right? And it's like, you know what? That was pretty cool.
Also, it's what like Westworld was just a book, and they adapted the book and then tried to keep going past the source material, and that was where they ran into problems. There's like basically an unlimited amount of source material in the Fallout.
Yeah,
world.
there's
so much that you could do.
There's like one big storyline, and then like from then on out, it's pretty much just vibes. Like, let's explore the world. Yeah. It's a lot more of let's explore the world than let's explore the different plot threads in the world.
Also, Jonathan Nolan, he's an EP, but I think it's important that he's not the showrunner.
Not the main guy.
It is these two people that are kind of at the center of it. And it feels like they have steady hands on the steering wheel here. Like I do feel, maybe I'm just like setting myself up for disappointment because Westworld season 2 is like one of the most disappointed things that I can remember watching TV live. Of like, what the fuck am I doing here? So I hope that Fallout doesn't leave me hurt like that. But
gotta shout out Kyle MacLachlan.
Yeah, gotta give
absolute king. And gotta shout out Moses Arias.
Yeah.
Hey, from Hannah Montana. Let's go.
Yeah, it's so funny. He shows up and there's so many people that are just like, is that Hannah Montana guy? Like,
he's great.
Ernest and Hunter, I don't know if you know this, but if not, I'm going to blow your mind right now. Do you know who co-creator Geneva Robertson Dworet is married to?
Who?
Hayes Davenport.
No way.
What? Are you
That's
serious?
so funny.
Of Hollywood Handbook
let's
fame.
fucking go, dude. I'm so all in on this show. It's
That's
belongs.
awesome.
I know.
Can I put
Rocks.
higher? Can I put higher on my list now?
Number
I was
0.
like, this can't be
Fucking power
that
couple.
Geneva. Yeah, Hayes
That's-
Davenport. One of the
I knew that it was a Geneva too, and that his wife was named Geneva.
one of the
Did not
funniest
connect
people
the
on
two.
earth, Hollywood Handbook podcast, the Flagrant Ones podcast for many years, has pivoted his like TV writing and production career into becoming like a leading political voice for like housing advocacy in LA. Cool guy, power
rocks.
couple. We love him.
Fallout is Hunter's number 1, my number 3, and Dane's number 7. Great show. We are at my number 1, which is Ripley. Hunter, I think you had this on your list.
My number 2,
correct?
Yeah.
This is a show on Netflix. It stars Andrew Scott, who's one of the best working actors we have right now. It is an adaptation of The Talented Mr. Ripley, which was done in the 90s with Matt Damon and Jude Law and Gwyneth Paltrow. Very different take on the same story. A lot darker, a lot more introspective, a lot more character-based. It's a lot of the same stuff you have from that film, but just shown in a very different light in beautiful black and white photography. There is just an incredible, like, elevated, artistic tinge to this show that you just don't see on television very often. And it gives off this vibe of like very serious, black and white cinema, but it is a very entertaining show. And you are mostly just watching this guy pull cons and lie to people and descend further and further into this rabbit hole of crime and deception. And it's my show of the year. Like, it's all I could ask for. A fucking knockout performance, beautiful cinematography, fresh, exciting direction that keeps you engaged, and just a clear vision, a clear, like, artistic vision. It's everything.
Good old Stevie Zalian.
Yeah, directs every episode.
It is
It's
stupid
amazing.
how beautiful it is. Like, it is.
I didn't realize that he also did everything like this on the night of from like 2016.
Yeah, which I still need to finish that. I never
show,
watched the whole up.
I mean, this is like one of the premier like modern screenwriters. Like his output is like insane amounts of bangers. Like he wrote fucking Schindler's List.
He wrote Moneyball.
So, yeah, Schindler's List, Moneyball, Awakenings.
Oh, where my Awakenings head,
dude. No, this is probably, like, I think if I was gonna say like what the best show of the year is, and I'm not gonna say Shogun, I would say that it's this. It is so well done. There's one, I don't remember the episode itself, but the one that is almost completely not silent, but there's almost completely no dialogue, where our boy is covering up a murder, but he's doing like kind of a bad job of it. And so you just spend the entire episode of him like going through, like, trying to hide the body. He's like, shit, I didn't take his wallet from him.
Go back.
And then like gotta go all the way back and like retrace his steps and dig it all. There's like such a meticulousness, a pattern to like what he's doing, that you can see that there's like, he obviously is like, has the serial killer quality to him, but he's not like an expert at this per se, where he is an expert maybe at pretending to be other people. Right. It's great. It's a fantastic show.
Quality is.
Do you put this above the movie? Because I don't. As great as I love it, I it's hard to compare the two because it's almost like apples and oranges in some way. But
I love
Jude
the
Law
movie so much. I mean, you get fucking Philip Seymour Hoffman in there. It's so different. It's just a very different take. Like, it is the same story, but it feels completely different. And they're trying to do two very, very different things. I mean, that movie is very much just trying to play off of like the movie star quality of Jude Law and Matt Damon. This is more just like you are in a psycho's head. Like, you are fully just in the shoes of a sick man, and you're just going to live in this space with him. That's why it's in black and white. Like, you are not seeing the world in color. You're seeing it monochrome, devoid of any emotion. The whole point is to put you in his POV, and it's incredibly effective. Shout out also to Dakota Fanning, who plays Marge.
Yes.
Love to see her in this. The extended cast is also great. Lots of just Italian guys in this. The inspector is so good. He's just chasing him around onto him. And man, Andrew Scott, like, you know, he has gotten a good bit of praise last couple of years, you know, with All of Us Strangers and a couple other things he's done. Obviously, Fleabag. He needs another like notch in his praise, because what he's doing in this show is unlike anything I've ever seen. The little tiny details of his performance, the way he walks, the way he moves his body, the way he shifts his facial expressions to embody another person, or the way he sits in a chair, or even the tonality of his voice and his delivery. Very, very small choices and small details that all add up to be just like this incredible piece that he's given us.
It's my favorite performance in a TV show this year. Like, I think that he is unbelievably good. It's something that's like, oh, there's like, I can't really think of anybody else on earth who could play this role to the same skill. So, but love it.
Highly recommend Ripley on Netflix. It's my number one and Hunter's number two. Drew, we started with you and we're ending with you.
What's the best thing you watched all year?
What is your number one?
My number one is FX's English Teachers. Easily one of the best, freshest, most revelatory comedy shows I've seen in many years. It's the brainchild of Brian Jordan Alvarez, who we'll get into the issues. I'm speaking about this in terms of the show right now. He has been seen for many years as sort of inevitable in like the comedy scene, as is his sort of like writing partner and like, you know, best friend Stephanie Koenig,
who also
co-stars
on
in the show.
Yep.
Yeah.
Who is, again, it's someone that you see and you're like, who the fuck is that? Like, where's she been?
Why have I not seen you before? Yeah.
Yeah, because Brian Jordan Alvarez is giving, a lot of the time he's giving sort of a straight man-ish performance, and he's not the most captivating person on camera, but like I said, this is his brainchild. Stephanie Koenig, unbelievable. One of the biggest takeaways from this show is it is teeing up like 5 different people who like should be stars, or at least should be in stuff. So it's well done on all fronts, but like taking a step back as a show, it is so current and so fresh without, almost like I talked about like with something like Nora, without trying to be. It's not trying to be like some hyper modernist, like sleek commentary on modern society. It just is, because it's smart and because it's depicting like a modern, you know, world. It really is just a show about like a high school English teacher who is gay and like sort of navigating that, but it's aided by a couple things. It's on FX, so it's like able to be like super R-rated. The only thing that we can really like contrast this against is Abbott Elementary, because schools are sort of like it's a setting that was sitting there for a while without a great sitcom sort of like taking the mantle, and now all of a sudden we have 2.
And they're both great.
Yeah, and they're both great, and they're both revelatory and like star making, and like they come from great young minds. They're just extremely different in key ways, so they're like scratching completely different itches. Abbott Elementary is very much like a network sitcom, and it's also at times it's a great show, but I feel like it's being held back by the mockumentary format.
Oh, absolutely. The fact that this doesn't have that it feels so freeing.
This show is completely unchained to any structure or format in a way that like only like FX studios, at least like on proper television, allows for. It's so out there. It's so like quick and sharp. And the fact that it's a high school versus an elementary school means that like we get to deal with like R-rated student issues a lot.
Yeah.
It's a sign of like a steady hand and great casting when all of the kids are amazing. They're so fucking funny. It's just like an all-around fucking powerhouse of a show. So, I mean, other people to note, the king himself, we talked about earlier, the sort of like the, you know, the people's champ of TV acting, Kristen Bell. Her father in Veronica Mars, TV actor GOAT on his own right, Enrico Colantoni, is
the principal.
Mhm.
Oh, he's so good.
So good.
So funny.
One of
Incredible.
my favorite TV like comedy, like non-lead performances in years.
Effortless. Effortless. He just throws
Exactly.
it away.
Playing a principal who genuinely like wants to commit suicide. Hates every single thing about his job and the people in it. It's so cool. Sean Patton is the gym teacher.
Marky.
He's a comedian that's been around for a while. I remember seeing videos of his, he would do like little Comedy Central guest spots like 10 years ago. And he's just been kind of floating around. I didn't even know he acted. All of a sudden, absolutely slaying it.
Great character.
Christopher. I love that guy forever. I'm just all in on Carmen Christopher.
Yeah,
Funny
Carmen Christopher is. I brought him up earlier talking about Dan Licata. He's in that school of like New Yorky, Chicago-y Connor O'Malley guys, and he's like a main ensemble piece here. Really compelling.
Hey, do you know what Carmen Christopher was a lead writer on? Wrote all 10 episodes for? Co-wrote at least The Curse.
Nice.
Wow.
That rocks. Wow.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Shout out.
Also Chris Gethard show.
Hell yeah. Hell yeah.
Let's go. Yeah. Love that guy.
Ernest, I heard you say that Sean Patton's character is a great character. That's the other thing, is they are given a lot of cool stuff to do here. Like, these are really interesting, like, dynamic fucking characters.
Yeah, each one serves like a very specific purpose in the ensemble, and so when they enter a situation, like the perspective that they're going to give and the way they give it is always surprising, even though you know what it's going to be. Like, there's always a wrinkle that surprises you. And one of the things I love the most about this show is that it's not afraid to get real. Like, it challenges itself to take on like serious topics, but the priority is always the joke every time.
Mm-hmm.
I think that going back to the luxury of making this set in a high school and not an elementary school is like, you can deal with some real ass shit. You can deal with like the existential crisis of what do we do about like gun safety, and should we teach kids how to handle guns, or should we say stay away from guns at all costs? Should we what do we do with like the crisis of like
the drag episode is amazing.
The Powder Puff
so
thing,
sick.
The whole Powder Puff idea of like, what is Powder Puff in 2024, 2025? Can you even do that anymore? Is it ableist in some way, or like, is it mocking somebody else's identity and the whole concept of drag, and then how it gets how they like explore that whole idea and then bring in what's her name, Trixie, who's actually Trixie Mattel. It's such a genius and cool idea that it stays light. It never gets too heavy. It never becomes something. It never leaves the comedy space.
Well, a big part of the reason that it does that is because it's not trying to pretend that it has all the answers to these issues. It's just having a discussion a lot of the time, because Brian Jordan Alvarez's character, Mr. Marquez, is like kind of a piece of shit and like super wrong most of the time.
He's like a bad teacher, not good at his job.
And also like, he's gay, so obviously, and like more like younger than a lot of his counterparts at the school. So he's like, we're led to believe that he's like moving in the right direction with a lot of his takes, but like, he's mostly wrong. Like, most of the episodes involve him almost like a Michael Scott type arc of like him wanting to do something, but it not being the right thing, but his heart's in the right place.
Yeah. And learning a lesson by the end of the episode.
Yeah, but also while maintaining, like, it's not just a Michael Scott, like you're watching a fucking buffoon, you know what I mean? He still is the everyman that's carrying like the heart of the show, the romantic arc with his ex-boyfriend, who's played by Jordan Firstman, who I fucking love in this show. Yeah, so they have like this weird, cool on again, off again thing. Langston Kerman is the new teacher that comes in, who's a great actor. He was in I want to say like The Boys. Yeah, Bust Out.
He was like, I think he might have been the Daredevil guy in The Boys who like gets his ears popped and then is immediately out of the show.
Is that it? I thought he was like the cult. Was he not the cult guy that
he might have been
gets in with? I don't remember. But...
the Hawkeye, the arrow bitch.
He's there to be the hot teacher. And he's just always looking hot and just like giving that little smirk. And it's like, and Brian Jordan Alvarez is like, I just have to fuck this guy. I don't know what to do. Like, he's looking at me like that. Like, I gotta fuck this dude. I don't know what to tell you. But he can't.
So it's just, it plays with a lot of like really familiar tropes and ideas, but it's doing it in such an unbelievably fresh way that like it's on the edge of like perfectly structured. Like, this isn't just like some amateur product. They brought in heavy hitters here. Jonathan Kreisel is like the main producer on this. He's the guy behind Portlandia. Like he directed so many episodes of Portlandia. And then like they bring in people to write, like Dave King, who's like, you know, because you have your fresh minds with your Brian and Stephanie Koenig and everyone they're bringing in. Dave King has written he wrote a bunch of episodes of like Parks and Rec back in the day. So you get a really, really good balance of like steady hand and then like crazy fresh new energy that makes like a near perfect comedy show for me. Now there's this one thing that we might need to chat about. Brian Jordan Alvarez has been accused of sexual assault by his former friend and co-star of like a web series show that he made.
There's a Vulture article,
a really lengthy article that goes in depth on the accusation, which does ultimately it has boiled down to a he said type deal, and it's murkier than just like flat out assault. It's like
if you read the article, there's a lot of
it's like really difficult, and it also just plays into like this relationship and this friendship triad between the three of them, meaning Brian, this guy, and then Stephanie Koenig, which this was years and years ago. Really just like seems like a toxic, bizarre fucking friendship.
Yeah. It's weird.
Yeah, it's truly an odd story. Have no idea where to end up on it.
Yeah.
And
it seems
really
like everybody was bad to each other. And
kind of.
One of them didn't get on the show.
Well, and so based on where that story has sort of left off, I would sort of be led to believe, honestly, that this show is going to get renewed. Whether or not that should be, that's not what I'm talking about. I feel like it will be, which ultimately makes me happy for like the giant swath of people working on this show that are putting in great work.
Yeah.
You always hate whenever like something like this that does feel like something special can get totally derailed by one person, whether they did the things or not. It's like,
he's like the main person though.
That's what makes
sours it.
And honestly, that was kind of the thing where I didn't really know where to put this show on my list, except I knew that it had to be included somewhere. But I was like, well, I binged this whole show in like a couple of days this past week. And then with all of the accusations and allegations, it was like I don't really know what to do with this thing. Because also it does leave off on a note, not on like a cliffhanger or anything, but like, there's definitely like some overarching themes and stories that are left within ellipses, let's say, like that.
Oh yeah.
I want to know where these characters are going to go, and it has not yet been renewed because we don't really know how everything's going to settle out.
Yeah. Ultimately though, it's a brilliant fucking show. It knows exactly how to use its talent in a really special way, and as a show it rules. And
shout out to the boyfriend digging the pool in the backyard.
That's so good.
Yeah. So God, the jokes, like you said.
Here's the thing. We've all been unemployed for a period of time and just had the urge to like, what if I built my own pool? And I listed the pool on Swimly. The app where you can have strangers come to your home and they can swim into your pool while you're there.
Yeah.
And you
need
can
a
charge
pool
them extra.
First to
you
be
can
able
charge
to do
them
that,
extra if they use your bathroom.
Yeah. But this is he keeps on saying one episode, he's like, this is gonna have to be a rush dig because the neighbors found out that I'm digging the pool and now they're getting on Swimly with their pools.
It's a rush dig.
like it's always joke first in this show. You're right. Like it has so much depth, but my God, it's fucking funny. Like someone will just casually drop like the funniest joke you've heard in weeks. So great show.
Great pick. Drew's number one is English teacher. And that's our list. We did it. Another Listomania in the books. Time for some rapid fire honorable mentions. Some stuff that hasn't been on anyone's list. A Man on the Inside, the Ted Danson show on Netflix, really enjoyed. Industry on HBO, thought it was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
The Apple TV
Are
Plus
you guys
corner.
not part of like heavy into Industry? Like Industry is the best show on TV. It took
It's a good
Succession's
show.
mantle thing.
It's a good show. It's fun.
I know there's
Enjoyable.
some people at that thing.
The Apple TV Plus corner of Presumed Innocent, Jake Gyllenhaal, Hive, Rise Up, and Dark Matter. Did you watch Dark Matter, Dane?
I haven't even heard of that.
If I might have to revoke your Apple TV Plus card if you don't watch Dark Matter.
All right.
What if there was a box? What if there was a box and we went in the box and there were alternate realities in that box?
I saw that in Futurama.
Okay, great show. Baby Reindeer sent from iPhone.
Okay, we're gonna have to change my list.
To edit the list.
I did watch Baby Reindeer.
Where would that fit right now on your list?
I'm having a nightmare.
It's better than Monsters, the Lyle and Erik Menendez story. It's not. I don't think it's a great show.
We cannot talk about Baby Reindeer right now. We cannot do
We
that.
gotta end the podcast.
We've been podcasting for like 5 hours. I can't.
For the reader, we may note that it's 1:07 a.m. on a weeknight.
Oh,
Ted
Jesus.
on the cock, the Ted show.
I heard
Hey.
good things.
I
Didn't care.
caught an ep or two, and that's a funny fucking show.
It's good.
It's funny, man.
Any other honorable mentions before we close out?
The Percy Jackson on Disney Plus.
Hey, I actually heard that was like pretty well done, like a well imagined version of those stories.
It was certainly slop, but it was high quality slop for children.
It's there for the member. It's there for the member areas of like I remember these books well, and
they let like actual 14-year-olds play 14-year-olds. I thought that was good. Big fan of that.
I started the show Black Doves and I really enjoyed it, but I did not finish it.
Oh, is that the Keira Knightley?
Yeah. It's very good so far. I'm going to finish it, but I just did not finish it, and I'm not going to put an incomplete thing on here. The worst show that I saw this year is The Dynasty, the New England Patriots thing. Truly, like it's now become like it is backlash. The backlash has been so funny to see because Robert Kraft, the owner of the Patriots, put out like a hit piece on Bill Belichick, and everybody immediately saw right through it and were like, yo, this shit like is like not true and sucks. And it was just people who were like cut from the team at some point in time being like, yeah, I don't know. He probably knew that Aaron Hernandez killed a bunch of guys and just kept him on the team anyways. It's such a joke of a thing. And it also skips past like all of the interesting parts about the Patriots dynasty. So it's bad. Don't watch it.
One show that
Apple slop. That's another Apple.
One show that I also started that I didn't finish that I was trying to cram this week is Say Nothing, where my Ireland heads at, my Irish independence heads.
Does Kneecap do the score of that one?
I wish. And Interview with the Vampire season 2. I was trying to catch up on that. I watched the first season and loved it, but didn't quite catch up on the second season. Also got to shout out the Vince Staples show on Netflix. Great showing from Vince Staples. And The Franchise on Max, just a great teardown of all the superhero slop movies that fill our screens.
It got canceled, right?
Yeah.
Or not renewed? Yeah.
Not renewed.
Don't you hate when that happens?
All right. We did it. That's it. That's the episode. That's Listomania. That's our favorite television shows of 2024. Thank you all for listening. Please rate, review, and subscribe, like, and comment, and let us know your thoughts, your picks for the best in TV 2024. Check out weebottomike.net to get every episode in your email inbox and patreon.com/webottomike. to support the show, $5 a month. Join the Discord, join the WBAM fam. Dane, thank you so much. What a treat to have you on. Please let the people know if you have any parting words for them.
Nope.
We'll see you next time. Stick around for the WBAMmies next week.
Whoa.
Back in the studio. We'll see you then. Take it easy. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Hell yeah.